Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 283rd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call, we have Andy Patterson, Dave the Hater Lowback, and Ozzy Smith. Plenty going on over the weekend, guys. You know exactly where we're going to start. It's going to be Usyk Gassiev. We will be going off into Smith Munguia, a bit of Machado later on, looking ahead to next week's action as well. We've got the big heavyweight clash between White and Parker, and also Garcia against Easter Jr. Loads of questions, loads of comments. Value of the weeks will be rounding off the show. Andy, let's come to you straight away on this Usyk Gassiev card. Let's have a look at the scores. 120-108 for Robin Taylor, 119-109 for Mr. Di Fiore and Philip Verbecker. Do you think those scores really tell the story of the fight? I mean, Gassiev, it was a shame really because he, all of a sudden, you know the way before a fight you're saying this could happen and that could happen and Usyk could outbox him, but Gassiev could get close and hurt him, and I think it'll be close. I thought it would be a close fight, but I had Usyk winning on points. And then all of a sudden things become really apparent in the ring and it all becomes so clear and so obvious. Gassiev just ended up looking one-dimensional, clueless and void of ideas because Usyk just executed the perfect game plan. I asked you the question about the scores, Andy. You know, you can't argue with those scores, can you?
Absolutely can't, mate. I had it 120-108, absolute shutout for Usyk. I suspect, you know, especially those that picked Gassiev and that they were slightly disappointed, or more than slightly disappointed, that we didn't get much more of a spectacle. But at the end of the day, as well, as you had a guy who, you know, I didn't put a lot of stock in punch stats and stuff because they're not really fully accurate. But you know, the guy threw over 500 jabs there last night and just under 1,000 punches. I mean, in the last 3 rounds alone, I think Gassiev is meant to have thrown in total 8 jabs to something like Usyk's 140 or something like that. That's just absolutely incredible. That's like 3 rounds. That's the last 3 rounds. You know, Usyk's stamina was superhuman. You know, that's all I can say. It was exhausting watching him throw those punches and that. You know, again, the 12th round was absolutely ridiculous. Is how he just, you know, kept the pace going. You know, you can easily grill Gassiev, but then you've got to think about, you know, just simple fact is you've got a guy, an absolute machine, just gliding across the ring there. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Again, I use the word again, incredible footwork, you know, speed. You know, even at times he had to show his chin. I think he got clocked a couple of times. He took a couple of body shots, which is usually Gassiev's forte. You know, he didn't yield, didn't bend, just kind of kept to the game plan. Jab, move to the side, left hand, uppercuts, body shots. You know, I try to actually think of, you know, somebody that size who's capable of moving about a ring consistently like that over 12 rounds. I can't even think of one. It's not a heavyweight anyway. I mean, maybe Ali, he's absolute peak prime in the 1960s or whatever. But you know, the future's it's looking really good. You know, you can't deny guys there. I see Hearns. We'll get to Eddie Hearn, I suppose, after the bell you call it. You know, I see Hearns got his shit started up now about how much Usyk's been making and that, but it's looking like Usyk's going to move up, because if he doesn't move up, he's going to end up. He's got a plethora of mandatory. He's going to come up shortly. Breathis WBC mandatory, so a lot of political boxing reality is going to be coming knocking shortly. So, again, as I say, heavyweight, we all know it's a money division, but you know, everybody else also knows that he's been well paid the last 3 fights at cruiserweight. So, you know, he could walk away tomorrow if he wants and retires. You know, happy with his lot. I see the pound for pound rankings and that, you know, getting updated, and a lot of people have number 1 in that. I think it's a bit too far. Definitely top 10, probably top 5 with a solid enough argument, which we can probably get into at a later date. As for Gassiev, I'm not going to be down on him whatsoever. He is a world level fighter. He just didn't have any answers. Simple as that. He didn't get a plan B. He could have fought 45 rounds there last night. He could have still been waiting for that, you know, that one punch, that left hook. He just couldn't find it. You know, at the end of the day, he's a very, very good fighter. Usyk's just a great fighter, and you know, I can't wait for him to see him move up to heavyweight. Which I dare say we'll get into when people start talking about Joshua and Wilder and all those type of fighters and that. But as for last night, it was a you know, perfectly executed performance by Usyk. I can't overstate it enough.
No, I'm sure the guys will agree with you, Andy. We've got Danny Young jumping on the call as well. I'll come to you, Danny, very shortly. Just before we do so, Facebook page, I asked for the comments last week from our listeners. Matt Port said last night, in fact, Usyk made Gassiev look like a novice. That takes some doing. What a performance. Luke Hobbs, Usyk now top 3 pound for pound, surely. There are no words for Usyk's brilliance, says Richard Swig. I thought this was going to be close, unreal. And Edward Mays, the Turkish commentary on my feed was much better than Ronald McIntosh. Usyk should move up to heavyweight now. I wasn't too bothered about Big Ron, to be honest, Ozzy. I thought he did a decent enough job. Not sure where Go-Go's getting the gigs. I know he can string a few sentences together. Hasn't been stringing too many punch combinations together recently, but I suppose I'm not going to get et up about the commentary team. I think they did okay on the, on the whole. 13 Mike Boxing just threw in a question, just briefly seeing this one, Ozzy, about footwork. The footwork was the key, wasn't it, for Usyk, really? He was moving like a guy many weights below his cruiserweight capacity, and that was what it was for me. It was the movement. Every time Gassiev tried to set his feet, Ozzy tried to throw the big shots in close, Usyk, bop, 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 and he was away again. It was so simple, but it was so effective.
Exactly that. I thought Andy's description and summary was spot on. It was a masterclass of a performance, and I think a few of us at the start tipped Usyk to win the tournament itself, but then as you saw what Gassiev was doing, there's a couple of impressive performances. The fight became a lot closer, particularly in betting, from the betting side as well, but on the night it was a complete shutout and one-sided, and a bit of a shock, to be honest, as well. Now, I was talking to somebody and I said that, thinking about it now, Gassiev has had a couple of close fights. I mean, the Dortico fight until I think rounds 9 and 10 was extremely close, and I think the Lebedev fight, he wasn't exactly all his own way, but with Usyk, he just didn't have a clue, basically. He did not have a clue, and the movement from Usyk was excellent, absolutely super. It was a faultless display. There's nothing that you can criticise about it. Gassiev is a world level fighter, and he was completely taken to school. And for me now, I think the only way is up for Usyk, and that's in weight. Nothing else to prove now. He's done something before that no one's ever done before, winning all 4 belts. So let's see him move up.
Yeah, we'll be talking about his heavyweight credentials very shortly. Danny, let's bring you in. A couple more Facebook comments. Sean Anslow says, Usyk is the real deal. Bellew won't fight him, though, as Usyk has 2 legs and a pulse, so too risky for the biggest hypocrite in world boxing. And Simon John Adams says, great performance by Usyk. Superior footwork, movement, jab, and work rate made Gassiev look very ordinary and was a schooling, poetic. Take a bow, Usyk, says Simon. I know that I've been not so much critical of Usyk in the past, but I'm a believer now. I mean, you can't argue with the statistics as far as I'm concerned with Usyk now. That's what's turned me around. He hasn't fought in Kiev since 2015, Danny. He's got fights against Glowacki over in Glowacki's native Poland. Fought Machunu and Hunter in separate American locations. Defended his WBO belt against Huck in Germany. Then he went over to Latvia to fight Bradis, picked up the WBC belt, and now he's going over to Moscow to fight hometown man MURAT Gassiev in the final of this tournament, adding the IBF and WBA belts to his WBC and WBO. Undisputed. There's no disputing about it, man. You know, the stats don't lie, Danny. This is a modern great. I mean, are we even going that far?
Evening, gents. Yeah, I mean, the guy's got some bollocks. Let me give him that. I mean, you know, traveling around the world, picking up these belts and knocking people out on, and even, as we saw last night, schooling people is something else. I mean, you don't see many fighters go and do that kind of thing, so you've got to give him like credit for that. But yeah, last night was just an absolute boxing masterclass. I mean, I can't remember someone in the recent future using their jab as good as that, and giving credit to Usyk. I mean, he must have respected Gassiev's right hand, because if you saw last night, all his movement was pretty much anti-clockwise, ducking under the jab hand. So, well, we know that Gassiev's got a decent left hand as well, but I mean, to stay away from that right hand was probably key last night. But yeah, I mean, he's got to be up there now. I mean, there was talk last night that he should be in the probably top 3 pound for pound at the minute. I mean, probably top 5. Probably not put him in the top 3, but definitely top 5 for me. Yeah, absolute masterclass. Loved it. I mean, I want to see him knock Tony Bellew out. I don't care what weight it is, whether it's a cruiserweight or a heavyweight. I think he'll destroy him, and that's something I'd happily pay to see. And one thing that I did notice last night is that, and I think you mentioned it, Steve, on Twitter, that maybe the Bradis fight was a harder fight for Usyk, because I think Bradis actually just he brought it. He came to he knew that he'd had to give it everything to kind of try and get a result out of Usyk, and I don't feel like Gassiev did that last night.
Yeah, you mentioned Bellew there. Obviously, people are talking about moving up to heavyweight. It's hard to see where Usyk goes at cruiserweight now that he has all the bling. Michael Evans was in touch, Danny. He said, who out of the semi-finalists could Bellew beat? Dortico? No, says Michael. Bradis? No. So why even talk about Usyk? Bellew ain't fighting anyone decent. He wanted a 23-stone Fury. Doesn't want him now. Picked Hay as a broken man and Cleverly as a weak champ and couldn't beat him. I think what Michael's saying here, Danny, is that Bellew should sort of shut up. I mean, I can't see it happening, to be honest with you. Eddie Hearn's going on about the figures adding up and stuff. I cannot see Bellew fighting Usyk at all.
That is excuse going to use.
No, to be honest with you, there's going to be about 5 excuses coming out of the woodworks sooner or later. I mean, obviously the big thing for Hearn will be the money. It's not there. He'll say that obviously Usyk's probably not well recognised as a boxer. Obviously, to boxing fans that, like myself and you guys that are into it, obviously know Usyk pretty well, but obviously Hearn is the voice of the casuals, so obviously that ain't gonna go well. So yeah, I think I'd like to see it. I know it probably won't happen. I'd like to see it on a pure basis that Tony Bellew would be fucking probably taken out of the ring in a wheelchair. But yeah, I mean, for me, Usyk really. Do you know what? Someone name dropped Wilder last night, and I thought actually that would be a really fun fight to see. That would be good. So yeah, I'm with you guys. I hope he moves up now and kind of cashes in on some of the bigger names with the bigger fights and takes it from there. But before I do drop off, Steve, I do want to pick up on a little thing that I saw last night. People gloating about being on Team Stream last night, which I thought was absolute fucking nonsense, when last night's fight was the kind of fight that we should all be happily paying $9.95 for, not this fucking Parker versus fucking Dillian White nonsense that's happening next week where you got to sit down and pay, what is it, 15, 20 quid? I mean, nonsense that people, one, moan about last night's fight, and two, advertise the fact that they're not paying for it, because that's the kind of fight that everyone should get behind. It's all the belts, no bollocks, and everyone should just be on board with it. And I don't get the people gloating about not having to pay.
You think
people pay for it?
Yeah, people should send a message by shelling out their pockets for this type of fight to say this is the type of thing we want to see in boxing.
Exactly, 100%. I mean, we don't want to see these fucking pissed up muppets singing Sweet Caroline after paying fucking 20 quid through Sky Box Office. This is the kind of fight that should be box office. All the belts, not just fucking random silver belts and all this fucking nonsense that we get with, well, you know the fighters that I'm talking about. But yeah, I don't see why people should be upset about what they saw last night or gloat about not having to pay for it. I mean, I happily paid for it, and I was chuffed I paid for it because it was a decent event and obviously a good outcome.
Anything else, Danny, from last night or beyond, next week, previous week? Anything you want to mention before we move on?
I'll tell you what I will drop in from last night. That absolute robbery. Chudinov versus forget what the other. Oh my goodness me, that was fucking. That's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. And the judges on that, they should be fucking banned or sacked from doing it ever again. It was atrocious. I'm sure Andy's going to talk about that at some point.
Fucking right. I lost money on that fight last night.
If we finally have a show in Jeddah, we could maybe behead the judges or something, Danny, in between rounds.
I mean, I'll take the knife, Steve, if I have to. That's not a problem.
You're welcome, as always, to come on. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, Steve. Thank you.
All the best.
Take care, gents.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Well, best,
Danny
mate.
Young there, friend of the pod, Patreon subscriber extraordinaire, goes to all the fights. Right, let's move on. Martin Mooney says, how can a guy, 200 pounds, 6'3", throw incessant punches through 12 rounds and move around the ring like a featherweight? I thought Martin was making a PED suggestion here, but he wasn't. He said the guy, as in Usyk, is a beast and seems like a very down-to-earth guy also. Brilliant fighter. Just going to bring in Dave. Andy, have you got anything to say before we do?
No, mate, I was just going to chime in there, but you said what I was going to say anyway, so.
Good stuff. Right, Dave, I think one of the good things about Usyk is, as I laid out on his box rec there, he's not afraid to travel. So it takes out one of the complications, doesn't it, about making these fights, whether it's a Bellew fight, a Joshua fight, not so much a Wilder fight, but definitely the other ones. There's no, oh, he won't come over here, he's got a home base, blah, blah, blah. Usyk could probably say, yeah, I've got my gloves, pay me the money, I'll come over. That takes out a complication, Dave. Saying that, is he going to come over and fight the likes of Bellew and Joshua? I think it's a pipe dream, to be honest with you. He's going to have to go and plough a furrow elsewhere. Looking at last night, though, you said that Gassiev was mentally broken and you thought he was ready for the quit. Do explain, Dave.
Well, when you're a Ukrainian fighter, you got to travel, right? I mean, people aren't going to come to Kiev, I don't think. I mean, the Klitschko brothers had to go to Germany even, and elsewhere. I mean, even Vlad went to Russia. Huge money to beat up fat-ass Povetkin. But about the actual fight, yeah, I was the only one who picked Gassiev last week, and now I've looked like the dumbest. Although I don't think anyone thought it was going to be that one-sided. I think everybody was looking forward to this fight because it was nearly 50-50 on paper, and we thought that it was going to be an interesting clash of styles, and people were going to win. And both guys were going to actually win some rounds. I didn't give it Gassiev a single one. Thought he looked terrible. I think probably he showed up there wanting to win with the fire under his ass and wanting to destroy his opponent. But I think after the 6th round and definitely by the 9th round, he had mentally surrendered. He was mentally broken down more than physically. Like after the fight, he looked fine. His face wasn't torn up or anything. He ate a fair amount of shots, but none of them. Usyk never sat down on many of them, except late on. I did enjoy how he did stay in range and unload combinations. And at that point is when you really knew Gassiev had surrendered and was like basically okay taking the loss, bar some massive fluke super punch. In the 9th round, he was in range. Usyk was in range to punch, and Gassiev wasn't throwing him. Gassiev was done, mentally done, emotionally done. And he was the one on the back foot, actually, at times, getting pushed around by the jab and often getting hit by an uppercut. He didn't know where the punches were coming from. He looked clueless. I actually expected better from him in terms of, well, obviously I did if I picked him to win, but I expected more heart from him, more imagination. I mean, he's a young guy, so it's not that surprising, I guess, that he's inexperienced. He's never dealt with this kind of thing before. But just based on the other challenges he's faced, I thought he was a more mature, seasoned fighter, and that he would deal with this a little better and never give up trying to win. And I think he did give up. There was a sign. I think it might have been after the 1st round, but after almost every round, he would reach out and tap gloves with Usyk. And when you have a guy who's like seek and destroy monster like Gassiev, I think if you're Usyk, it's a good sign if he wants to reach out with you and tap gloves at the end of each round, because that means he respects you. He maybe even likes you a little bit. He respects the beating you're putting on him, and I've heard fighters talk about this before, especially when they're fighting a beast. They look for concessions from their opponents, and sometimes that can be a glove tap. Like it's almost like a gentleman's agreement that they're not trying to kill each other. And I think that was significant last night. I think Gassiev was not in the kill mode. I don't know when exactly it started, but it started pretty early on, like after maybe 4 rounds. He was not really there to destroy anymore. And that was, I mean, he landed some decent punches still. I don't think he ever hurt Usyk. Some people said he was wobbled in the 2nd or the 4th. I don't think he was. I think he held on just in case, just in case there was a delayed reaction, but I don't think he was hurt. I think he's got a great chin. He took better stuff from Bradis, and Bradis ices heavyweights. This actually made Bradis look much better. And that's the fight that should have been the final. It's unfortunate they drew each other for the semifinal, but I mean, that was still a great fight. Gassiev, I mean, I'm sure he can still go on and have some fun fights, but my opinion of him is gone way down. I don't think he's great fighter material in the slightest. He's just going to be sort of an entertainer, maybe a little bit better than Kudryashov in the grand scheme of things.
But he's got a better chin than Kudryashov, hasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he's got good attributes, and maybe I'm being harsh on him just based on last night. He's still a good fighter. We'll see what he can do at cruiserweight after this. But I don't want to see Bradis or Usyk waste their time with anyone but each other, really. This whole heavyweight move up for Usyk, I'm not that interested in, really. Tony Bellew, I'm not very interested in. I mean, we know what would happen. I mean, maybe it would be somewhat entertaining to see him get schooled, but I mean, is it really worth a whole fight out of Usyk's career to see that? I don't know. I mean,
what are you interested in then, Dave? If you don't want him to fight Bellew, if you don't want him to move up to heavyweight,
I want him to fight Bradis. I want him to rematch Bradis. I want that fight. And I'm okay with move. I just think that he's so good at cruiserweight. Like I want to see him at his best, and at heavyweight he would definitely be at a disadvantage. I just wish heavyweight would get ironed out a little bit first. Let's say I wish I want the championships to sort of coalesce there, and so we know who's fighting who, and we know who he should be targeting, instead of just this mess that we've got at heavyweight right now. I mean, who would you want to see him fight? Like people are talking about Joshua. I mean, is that likely? It really does not seem likely to me.
No, but I mean, I don't know. Once you've won all 4 belts at cruiserweight, there's no other discernible challengers because you've just beaten, comprehensively outboxed the main rival at that weight. I mean, he could rematch Bradis, fair enough, but you could. I'm not saying that's a step down. I wouldn't be completely averse to it, but I think literally the only way is up for him now.
Well, see, because I had Bradis beating him. I know it was close. It could have gone either way, and he fought well, and Bradis fought well. But like for me, if he moved up right now, it would seem like he was avoiding that mandatory, which is Bradis. And as far as I'm concerned, he earned himself another shot at it.
I don't think anyone would give a shit about the mandatory. I didn't even know he was mandatory, to be honest with you. I don't think anyone would care about that.
Well, no, I mean, generally the sanctioning bodies mandatories are absolute shit. Like they'll put Dillian White as a mandatory or Tony Bellew as a mandatory, but when a mandatory is actually someone of quality, then I would hope that the fighter would take it.
If he moved up to heavyweight tomorrow, then history would never even look back for a second on the fact that Bradis was his mandatory. I don't believe so, Dave, to be honest.
No, it would just be me because no one else cares about Bradis. But Bradis can fight at heavyweight too, so a heavyweight move up is not necessarily nixing that future matchup. It just, I don't know. I just want to see both guys at their best, and I think they're both better at cruiserweight. So I guess I'd be interested to see what they can do at heavyweight, but I'm not super excited about it. I don't know. It's just hard to imagine Usyk in there with the heavyweights without seeing it first. But then Marco Huck ended up being an entertaining heavyweight. So, it could
David Haye moved up, didn't he? Remember he fought Barrett and John Ruiz. I mean, you could test the water against fighters of that ilk. I mean, God, we've got Alexander Dimitrenko is still being dragged out of his frigging grave to fight Bryant Jennings this time. I mean, Usyk could go in with somebody like them pair. I mean, he'd beat Jennings, wouldn't he?
But David Haye is the example of what you don't want your cruiserweight moving to heavyweight career to look like.
I've seen worse. I've seen worse moving up.
I would hate Usyk to become a David Haye. I mean, I can't see that happening, but it'd be a shame to have like the cruiserweight king just kind of looking for paydays, and heavyweight's just such a polluted, cancerous mess. And I don't know if I want him to get involved in those waters at the moment. But I mean, if he can get the fights, I mean, all power to him. I just don't think he can. Even big heavyweight stars can't get the fights, apparently. We have.
Do you want to protect him, Dave? Do you want to put an arm around him and protect him and mother him?
Yeah, he should be my baby. No, actually, he's not my favorite. Bradis is my favorite. But I really was rooting for Usyk last night because fuck Russia and fuck their state-sponsored doping and their annexation of Ukraine. I like when the Ukrainians always serve Russians the dominant L's, and it seems to happen a fair amount in boxing. So,
Dave, I hope whenever you go back to the hotel tonight, there's nerve gas on your handle of your room.
I'm in Austria. They can't get me.
Oh, they'll get you all right.
The Novo choked Steve.
I want him Skripaled.
Well, if Andy's theory was correct, I'm gonna get kidnapped and sold into
sexual slavery.
Yeah, like Ricky Hatton.
Hey, you need to watch, by the way. A few Russians that own the hotels there in Austria, Bump that.
Well, hopefully they're not listening. But if they are, yeah, I'm not packing either. I didn't bring the gun over.
If people don't know what we're talking about, Dave, that is one of the great moments of the pod ever. With the, you remember that, Andy, the sexual slave? Oh, that is one of the great moments.
It was about Ricky Hatton and just picturing little Hatton, a fat little Hatton gets sold. Like, I would pay for him.
And the poor bastard got named in a fucking newspaper article today as well. Today.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Dave, whereabouts in Australia?
Fuck something.
Vienna?
Fuck how?
Where?
Yeah.
Where?
It's called. I can't. I don't know how to pronounce it. I just left.
Well, hopefully the Russians listening to this can translate it and come and get you.
I just went up into the largest ice cave in the world today. I don't remember what it was called.
Right, have you got anything else to add, Dave? Because I need to bring our guest on in a minute.
No, yeah, let them on.
Okay, let's ask a few more questions to the boys while I get this done then. Ozzy, Rob Barnett was trying to come on tonight, actually. He said Usyk is out boxing the absolute perfect fight. This was in about round 10, I think. Absolutely sensational to watch. Gassiev isn't even bad. Usyk is just that good. What about this from Willie C00, Ozzy? He's talking about the training situation. Simply, is Abel Sanchez a good trainer in the opinion of the panel? Bear in mind, Usyk is a different class. I think Abel is a very experienced, capable trainer. I don't really know what much more he could have done last night, to be honest, Ozzy. What do you think about Abel Sanchez last night and in general?
He was unable last night, anyway.
I think he's okay. I think just because I think last night, yeah, I've seen his corner work criticised, but when Usyk was that good and just nullifying everything Gassiev could do, there's only so much a corner man could do. I think to start potentially questioning his credentials is pretty poor. I mean, he's been on the journey with Golovkin. He's got other fighters under his belt as well. I know for a fact he's going to be another fighter is going to be joining him soon. You all know that as well. One of the bigger weights in boxing. I'll let people try and guess and put two and two together. But no, of course he's a good coach. You don't attract decent fighters by accident or on a name or anything like that. He's very good at what he does. He held his hand up last night and essentially said, we were second best. There wasn't a right lot we could do about it. And I applaud somebody like that. It's easy to go and delve into excuses or he had a bad camp. I've more respect and time for people who hold their hands up and say, yeah, do you know what? We were second best on the night. Don't go back to the drawing board. That is not the end of Gassiev's career whatsoever. If Usyk does move up and vacates all the belts, Gassiev Bradis, what a fight that would be. I also think Gassiev's got the potential to move up to heavyweight as well, and I would take him over people like Dillian White, Carlos Takam, Derek Chisora. I'd take him over them next weekend. So his career is definitely not over, and the corner work of Abel Sanchez is still very good. And like I say, you don't do what he's done by accident or fluking it. He's clearly got skills and has the qualities.
Let's hit you on with a question, Andy, from Charlie BR28. He said, in my opinion, following this win, Usyk will move up to heavyweight. Can you see him beating the likes of your Joshuas or your Wilders by a comfortable points decision? We've discussed this with the guys. Andy, what's your opinion on the heavyweight move up? Are you like Dave? Would you like to see him stick at cruiser? Or would you like to see him go up and fight the likes of Joshua and Wilder? And what indeed would happen?
I would only like to see him stay at cruiser if he's going to, obviously like, do the mandatories, etc. I mean, he fights like Vlasov and I think Shumanov's got that fake WBA title. He doesn't want that work. Brevis, as Dave says as well, who would be the WBC mandatory. But then again, the guy's 31, pushing 32. Again, as I say, he's made close to 10 million over the course of his last 3 fights, so he could retire today if he wanted to. But maybe it's all about legacy for him. He's only what was that? His 15th pro fight there last night. So again, he's not going to have the power. Mate, I mentioned this after his last fight. He's not going to have the power actually to like ice like the top end heavyweights and stuff. But he's got enough about him to actually frustrate them. Joshua comes forward in straight lines. He has got a longer reach and stuff, so he's got a lot to navigate around about. But he could. We saw it last night. 12 rounds movement like that, thrown over 1,000 punches. You know, I mean, that was like Evander Holyfield when he fought Dwight Muhammad Ali back in, what was it, 85, 86, whatever it was. You know, I've never heard of that. You know, guys that size, you know, moving about the ring like that. As for who he would beat, I think he would beat like Jarrell Miller. I think he'd beat Oquendo definitely. I think he'd beat Parker. Wilder definitely. I wouldn't go definitely aye with that one, because I think me and Ozzy were talking about this last night. You know, Wilder's, you know, he will spend 12 rounds looking for that right hand, and you just know if he does land it, it's potentially lights out. I think he would beat Ortiz. I think he'd definitely beat Bellew. Tony, a wee bit like Wilder, would probably look for that left hook, whereas Wilder looked for the right hand. Fury, definitely no. That Fury fight would be aged to watch, actually. It would be an awful fight to watch, but I think Fury would just pepper him all night with a longer reach and just kind of, you know, I think Usyk would need to go looking for him, put it that way. Who else would go to heavyweight?
Since we're talking about styles, it's true that Usyk has a very bad style for AJ. That movement style AJ will struggle with. Same thing with that's one of the main reasons I always think that Fury would beat him.
Excellent stuff, Dave. Andy, sorry to cut you off there, but we have our first guest of the evening on. I'm delighted to welcome former Commonwealth welterweight champion James Hare. How are you, James?
Not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, it's nice to be here. Yeah, it's the first for me. So yeah, good stuff. Looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Yeah, we're just talking to James off air there, and he's not completely tech savvy, but you can use the phone, okay, James? So we should be okay.
Yeah. It's like I just said to Steve there. I've got 2 young children, and I need to get with the times. And like I said, recently got a Twitter account, so yeah, I'm just, like I say, following stuff, and that's only a little bit of news that I see, to be honest. I still get my boxing news, and I got my finger on the pulse a little bit, but not like when I was, boxing. But yeah, we're learning and moving forward.
Definitely, that's all you can do. I was going to ask you, actually, whether you keep your hand into the game. Do you keep an eye on it? We had a good fight last night for the final of the World Boxing Super Series. Did you manage to catch it, James?
Well, this morning, and I'll be brutally honest, I made a point of, my wife said to me, she says, you ought to be watching this, and I do watch the stuff. I watch the boxing, and like I get drawn to it whenever I'm about. But then I actually made a point of getting up this morning and obviously and watching it through. And really early this morning, I was following some of the Twitter feeds, and the people were saying, I thought, all right. And I was watching this morning. It was like from the comments that must have been during the contest, it was almost weird. And then as I'm watching it this morning, I really thought it was going to be a pickup. But obviously, the Ukrainian guy is very, very special. And I think he proved it again last night, but then some of the comments I'd seen about how Gassiev was disappointing and stuff like that. And I listened to Abel Sanchez in the corner saying, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. But I just felt that maybe I just think that the Ukrainian guy, he was just a bit special. He was just half a step. He could see. You could see what the other, he just had him in his palm of his hand. The Russian had a little bit of success, but I think it was a Russian feed that I was watching this morning. So they kept showing little clips, and it didn't make no difference because it was all in Russian commentary. So, normally I always turn the commentary off when I'm watching it but that don't make no difference. I can't understand the commentary. But I just think that the Ukrainian, he just looked, his movement, his timing. I think he just had him in his palm of his hand. Really, he started to take over, and not so much take the mickey, but he just had him. He had his number. For me, that's how I saw it.
Yeah.
And he's going to be an handful for anybody.
He certainly is. Just running with that theme, actually, and looking at your career, was there anyone you were ever in with and, you thought to yourself, gosh, there's not really much I can do with this guy, or he hits harder than I thought, or he was faster than I thought, or what's the mindset like, when that happens in a fight?
Well, for me, from in a contest, it happened. There were 2 occasions. I think I finished. Yeah, I lost 3 of my professional contests for my personal career. And one of them, I was very, very jaded. And another time, when I boxed for a British title unsuccessfully against David Barnes, and he was just on the money.
Yeah.
He was just on the money that night, you know, and he just won my night. And credit to him, he just, you know, I mean, I've kept in touch with Mike Jackson. He worked at Rebellion at Colliers, and I think he works with Richard Hatton now. And he has always said, you know, I brought the best out of him, and fair play to him for that. But from I don't know, I can't go from I could talk from a sparring perspective. I've been in with kids who just, you know, I was doing a lot of rounds with Nassim Ahmed back in the day, and some of the guys when I was younger. I remember sparring with a kid, Rashid Lawal in Denmark, and he was strong, but I was young. I was a young man then, probably sparring against a man, you know. And when you can't do anything physically, and you can't do anything to do with him, then there's not really a lot you can do. I mean, sparring is different, obviously. You know, it's not, you're not in a contest situation, but it's a weird one. It's a dark place when, and that's what weird. Listening to Abel Sanchez, he's just like, look, you need to go out there and throw shots.
Yeah,
it's almost like he wasn't trying, but I don't think it mattered what he would have done. You know, the Ukrainian, he just had his number. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's how I saw it. That's how I saw it.
Your big breakout win, the first time I became aware of you, was on Sky Sports in 2002 when you won the Commonwealth title that I mentioned against the Australian Julian Holland. I mean, you know, you're a switch hitter, weren't you, James? And you really were on point after, you know, about the 4th or 5th round in that one.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked. I mean, somebody recently put it on YouTube. I mean, like I say, I had my little bit of time, but before the rise of all the social media stuff, and I don't know. I never really liked to. Straight after a box, I remember watching stuff because every match I'd been in, and then looking back and watching it and the rerun, that's what I always, because it was always different to how I actually felt during the contest.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know how other people might, you know, other guys, you know, the boxers might feel the same, might not. I'm not sure. But I always remember watching. But it's funny because I remember the commentary saying, you know, it seems a bit unsteady, bit this, bit that. But I actually felt comfortable. You know, I mean, never really got. I think I got clipped a little bit. I think first or second round, but not really buzzed. You know, and then, like I said, from third round, found my range. And it was in new territory, you know, boxing for 12 rounds. You know, previous to that, I think I'd done a 10-rounder, which were a decent contest prior. And I think I came into my own that night, you know what I mean? And, you know, his style probably worked towards that as well, you know what I mean? He was coming forward, I was managing to pick him off and then catch him with clever counters, you know.
One thing I always remember, James, on the Sky feature, they did this big feature on you out in the big stately home, and they were calling you the Lord of the Manor. What was that all about?
Well, listen, like, I mean, I turned pro in '96. Down at Winkerbank with under Brendan, and you know, I went with it. I went with it. I mean, I went down. I think I spent about 5 years there, and obviously you learn. You know, you go around, you spy, you meet people, you do one thing over. Then, like, I had a little bit of time out. You know, things didn't really work for me after that. And then I think I had that draw with Mark Winters, and then I had like 12 months out. I found myself again training with similar people. I was as around as an amateur, and then one thing led to another. And then I had a couple of bits of success, fell back in love with it, and then I started getting a little bit of attention. They just came. And I just went with it. I mean, the whole thing was just a bit of a giggle. I mean, I just didn't disagree with it. You know, I mean, obviously they came and filmed my mum and dad's. I mean, I'm a working class kid. You know, I mean, I live in, you know, a moderate semi-detached now in Huddersfield. My mum and dad are still down there, but like I say, they grafted their pants off, and that's their pension, so to speak. You know what I mean? But again, it was a little bit something different, I suppose, to the normal run-at-mill, you know, hard life, hard knock story, I suppose. And I just went with it, to be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the easiest thing I can explain. You know.
Back when you were around, Sky was showing a lot of the likes of the IBO title, and you picked up the vacant WBF title against Roman Schumann. Got a couple of good defenses. I remember your fight with Jan Bergman. Unfortunately, in 2003, you came in against Cosme Rivera, really experienced, looked like a big punching guy. Eventually went in with the likes of Zab Judah, Andre Berto. Great pedigree. Just didn't happen for you on that night. What was it like fighting a veteran like Cosme?
You know what? I've not got many regrets in boxing. You know what I mean? Looking back, now I beat Zillman on a bill in Manchester, like on a half-empty arena in Manchester with Brody. That's when Barry Hearn were obviously still involved with Matchroom, and obviously really trying to push Michael. And obviously I boxed really well against this Ukrainian kid. Who bizarrely won a silver medal in World Juniors, which I competed in. The same thing, and that's the first time, you know, I could see this massive Ukrainian, and with Vladimir. Me and Vladimir, I think, were the same age, you know. And I couldn't believe there were another blooming 17, 18-year-old who was like shoulders, weight, you know, just ultimate mesomorph athlete. You know what I mean? And then obviously, anyway, I won it in June, and I boxing August against Bergman. Bergman has seen his best days behind him, but he could still punch, let me tell you. And then I boxed a Hungarian kid in October. I had a few slippery moments against him, but I stopped him in 10, which was a little bit dubious, but it was a tough fight. And going into that Rivera fight, I didn't even know dual boxing. And like, I'm a workman-like kid. You have a bad day at the gym. You know, you have a bad day at work. You go home, you dust yourself off, you come back in, you carry on. If things could have been changed, that it wouldn't have happened. You know, I mean, there's a chap. I mean, he's not here, but he is kicking about. But if he were here now, I mean, I remember sweating down on the bike in the week running up to the match, and I was saying, you know, I just think I feel like saying I've turned my ankle over. I'm running, just, you know what I mean, just not knowing who we were boxing. Things weren't right. It's just a tired camp, you know, and I got on with it. I tried to book my ideas up and got on with it, and I come unstuck, and no, I've got no complaints at all. I mean, one of my only reservations was like my corner, like, go forward. Like, fact is, I couldn't go forward, you know. I mean, if I'd have stood back, I'm not here. Listen, I wouldn't have won the contest, but I'd have gone out on my shield. I got 12 rounds under my belt, maybe gone out and not got stopped in the 10th like what I did, you know, and that hurts a little bit, you know what I mean? But it's just part of my chapter, you know. You can't. It's just one of those things, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just to remind our listeners, we've got quality former fighter James Hare on the line. Very candid, very open, James. He's telling it how it is. He's on Twitter as well now. What's your Twitter handle so the guys can go and follow you?
Robert Town Rocket, James Hare at Robert Town Rocket. Yeah, I think it's 1T. I mean, I've already been on there. There's a friend of mine who I work with. So you need to get on, and you know, you might you know, rekindle some friendships from before. And I have done, like, say, I follow Carl Greaves and one or two other guys, and some of the boxing and whatnot. But like, say, busy with the working and family. It's well, yeah, like everybody knows, they're all in the same boat. It's hard sometimes, you know.
Obviously, when you were around and about, Ricky Hatton as well was coming to the fore, and British boxing was just starting to pick up as well. What was it like boxing on Sky back then with Matchroom, and Ricky obviously was building up steam?
Well, to be honest, like I say, I had my bit of time. I always I never really quite cracked it. In terms of, you know, I'm happy what I achieved. You know, some people might argue, say I could have done a little bit more. But bottom line is, it's all about your temperament, you know. And in all honesty, you know, some people have been around me as an amateur and a professional. I say, they probably agree, or they might say, oh, you know, my best work were in the gym, you know, and I probably really want to, you know, one of those people who could really turn it on, and when it actually counted, you know what I mean? I mean, I managed to do it a little bit, but I never broke, you know. I mean, you know, if things went different against Rivera, I mean, I don't know if all this for sure, but there was a kid called Teddy Reid who had a high ranking with the IBF. And I believe if I'd have got through that third defence, they were talking about like an IBF eliminator, you know, against the Jamaican kid based in America. And, you know, I felt I could, you know, I could have, on my best, you know, I could have, you know, I could have, you know, give a good account of myself and maybe, you know, maybe done a little bit of something. You know, I mean, I know I picked up that WBF belt. I never really consider myself as a legitimate world champion. You know, I'm not daft, but you know, I did beat some decent guys. You know what I mean? And that's just it. That's just my little bit of a chapter, really. You know.
Do you go back and watch any of the fights then on YouTube? You were saying earlier. Have
sometimes, yeah. Like I say, obviously it's full on now, isn't it? I mean, there's everything you can watch. I mean, like I say, since my pal put me on Twitter, Bertie, I follow some of the guys, and there's people putting clips on, and it's funny. When I get a time, when kids are down, I'm back, and I'll go on there, and they put these clips on. It's like, oh, it's brilliant. I know it's just like condensing stuff, and I love it. I think it's brilliant. I try and retweet stuff, and I can't find. Sometimes I can't find words to put it into place. You know what I mean? How it makes you feel, and it's like it's just it's humbling sometimes. Some of the toughness and the agility and the skill, and it's hardcore, to be honest. But it's good. And I don't get to. I think the last I went to George Groves Eubank Jr. Yeah. That's the last live boxing match I went to, and then prior to that, I mean, my old trainer's son, young Tyrone, he's been doing well, and I went to I watched him at Leeds. He got beat. He got beat off Clifton Mitchell. Like I can't think of the kid now for the Commonwealth title. And for me personally, I thought he should have been. You know, he were capable of beating those type of kids, but it just does something. I personally think he was very, very big at a weight, and you know, I don't know, he just it was weird being there, and I was seeing people. We're all the same staff because it's all matchroom people as well. There's a couple of guys gone. I got a bit jealous. I got a bit proud of them all, and then it was just a want for me being in the crowd. But then when I went to see Groves and Eubank, I was really up, and I was with my pals. I was on a bit of a night out and watching. That were a bit different. It's all like I managed to switch off from the boxing, you know.
Well, you obviously had your last fight in November 2006 against Robert Lloyd Taylor, who I actually remember winning the prize fighter. Were you happy to hang the gloves up then? Did you ever think about coming back, or where was your head at then?
Yeah, well, you know what? I remember it. Well, yeah, I remember it like yesterday, to be honest. I mean, after I lost against Rivera, I came back, had a couple of good wins. I beat Welsh kid. His name was Thomas, I think. That were down in Bridgend, and then I boxed later on that May in 2004 against a French kid, and stopped him. And then what Tommy Gilmore did, he played the card. I won a British title a bit earlier on in my career before the Holland fight, and then that's what they used to put that down. And then I were made mandatory then, which were obviously at the time with David Barnes, and then that got put back, and then we ended up boxing in November 2004. Obviously got beat, no arguments there. Then I struggled. I was late 20s, pushing 30, and I plodded on them for 2 more years. I had 4 fights in 2 years. You know, struggling to get dates. Obviously, I'm playing. I know how the game works. You know, you got to live in the gym. You know, I was probably ranked in the top 10, waiting for maybe opportunities to come along. You know, things just really weren't working for me. And coming into the match down at Bethnal Green, it was going to be. I think it was Frank Maloney who were boxing, who were promoting off. Kelly, as is known now, bless him. But it were an 8-rounder, then it were a 6, and this and that, and they were like, right. And I was just, you know what? And I remember Chris, obviously at the time, David A were boxing on the main event. Mm-hmm. He had his egos running in. We had him booth. That's how I felt. We were getting shifted around from change rooms. I just had to keep focused. We went in. I remember boxing him, bless him. And I remember getting buzzed in the first round. Got caught. And I remember it going right down to his feet. And I remember looking into the crowd. I mean, I boxed at Bethnal Green Oh, I blew my neck. The junior ABAs twice. I got beat, and then I won them as a Class B.
Yeah.
And I boxed there as a pro 2-3 times up under cards coming up. And I got buzzed. And I remember looking into the crowd, thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Now, prior to that moment in my career, I've been beat twice comprehensively. You know, obviously I got stopped in 10 by Rivera. David Barnes turned me over in 6. But not at any point during those contests did it come into my head, what am I doing? Not at any point. You know, I mean, Rivera, but he never even buzzed me. It's weird.
No.
I've seen clips. I've watched. I mean, he boxed Andre. I mean, he were tough old cookie. And I know what happened with Judah, but I don't know if you've seen it. He boxed Andre Berto. He was coming through. I mean, he was gone. It's on there on YouTube. He put Berto over, I think, in 6th or 7th of an 8 rounder, just as Berto were coming through. Yeah. And the bell saved him, and he went out on his feet. But not at any point he never buzzed me. Yeah, I mean, I got beat. You know what I mean? But he never buzzed me. But I don't know what you take from that. You know. But going back to the Taylor match, and that's what I thought. And then I lost the first 3. I come back through. I mean, if the match had gone to 8, I'm standing here. I probably would have ended up winning. But I remember Pete Cullen, the old guy who used to do pads with us with Chris. I took my covers off, and I remember saying, "That's me done." Yeah. I knew in my heart that he had gone. He's not been there since 11-year-old. You know what I mean? I've been boxing. You know, I've done a lot of time, and that was just my bit of my.
The fire had burnt out by then, James. Yeah, the fire had gone.
Yeah, that's all I can describe it. As much as I hate to say it, because boxers don't quit. You know what I mean? And that's what, you know, that's basically, yeah. And it switched off. You know what I mean? It just wasn't there anymore. You know, and that were it really. I've been back to college, and I'm in building trade now. I'm a joiner.
Strange paths, eh? Listen, we're not going to keep you for much longer. I've got Ozzy on the call. He just wants to ask you a quick question, if that's okay, James.
Yeah, no problem.
Go ahead, Ozzy.
Yeah, just a quick one. You mentioned that you're still floating around and talking to a few friends. Does it interest you ever going back involved, perhaps doing a bit of coaching or something like that, or is your time in boxing done now?
Well, I've dabbled, I've touched base, and I sometimes pop down the gym, and it feels like I've never been away. And I mean, me and my wife, we've had children since I finished boxing, and Amanda we got married after I finished, and children were never an issue when she wouldn't have had kids while I was boxing. It's just how she felt. She had a decent job. I've been and done bits of personal training. I sat on the area council for a little bit up at the central area when it became non-financial, and that was a link from me. But the bottom line is, and again, going back to when you're losing the fight, it's the dedication. And at this point in my life, I've just not got the time to be involved, because you need to be there. You need to be there for the kids and the lads who you're involved with. But I can hold the pads, and I do believe that down the line I probably will be involved in some form or another. But it'll probably be on a, it'll be showing people how to move their head, because there's not a lot of that going on at the minute. Is the way I see it. You know what I mean? But yeah.
You could certainly move the head, James. You had a good defence, didn't you?
Yeah, well, yeah, I've pretty elusive. Yeah, and I'm not as hard as I've still, people keep reminding me I've still got my features, so my memory still goes now and again.
Great career. The guys on the panel here remember your career well, and you should be proud of it as well. And thank you very much for giving up your time and coming on this evening, speaking to us.
No, that's brilliant. I'm really, really pleased to. Like I say, it keeps you remembering the people. Yeah, it's important. Yeah, it's good. I'm pleased to be here.
And if you want to remind us of your Twitter as well, the listeners go and follow you.
Yeah, it's James at Robert Town Rocket. Yeah,
at Robert Town Rocket. There you go, everybody. Thanks again, James. We'll speak to you again soon, hopefully.
Nice one. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you. Bye.
James here, there, everybody. pleased to have that interview. I remember James, he was a staple of the early Sky shows when I was first getting into the boxing hardcore scene around 99, 2000. James Hare was always on those undercards. And then, like I mentioned, that Julian Holland fight was the main breakthrough for him. He was a good fighter, very skilled, good southpaw switch hitter. So thanks to the chat. I know they weren't too bothered, but you know what? I'm the host, and if I want to talk to somebody, I'll talk to them. Only joking. Go and hit sub. Go and hit like. Ozzy. Now, from one level of boxing to the other, hit me with this Prince Patel update. He was fighting Julius Kisarawe. Hope I haven't pronounced his name wrong. And he got a win. He's 16-0-1 now. The Prince marches on, Ozzy.
He did. I mean, it's no surprise he's notching up the wins, isn't he? In the Gregor Joseph School in Budapest. Again, another renowned arena in the European shores, and the Prince marches on. The Prince's army, dispatched of the 29-5 Julius Kisarawe. An impressive win. He was Tanzania's #1 bantamweight. And like I say, I think Prince Patel, he made a statement after being overlooked the Super Series, in my opinion.
Definitely should have got the Prince in the Super Series. Let's move on to a few other points of interest over the weekend. Where should we go next, everybody? I think we'll go over to the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. Before we do that, actually, I don't know if you're back with us, Andy. You wanted to mention maybe a couple of things on the undercard. I know Danny Young mentioned the Mohammadi Chudinov fight. Also, I know Bradis was in action. There was a female fight featuring the First Lady. Anything really briefly of interest?
I don't know. I think the opponent that Brevis fought, I don't know if I'm sure it was a late replacement, so I don't know if it was mainly a kind of, you know, a motivational problem with Brevis, but it didn't look all that good. Chudinov, Mohammadi, I thought Mohammadi won that by a minimum of four rounds. I thought he was, you know, okay, it wasn't like a great fight as such, but I thought he boxed excellently. He stepped on the gas when he had to. He was aggressive when he had to be. He slipped out when he had to. Chudinov, I didn't rate that one at all. But then if you look at the scorecard, for example, you know, 115, 113, 116, 112 to Chudinov, and you have it 180, 111 to Mohammadi the other way, it's just an absolute joke. That one, when you seen that card come out, you actually had, you know, severe doubts about Usyk getting a, you know, shake on the cards and that. Then Usyk comes out and just absolutely just dominates, you know, the way he did. So, you know, Breckus as well. She's done what she's had to do. You know, in all honesty, it was a Russian, you know, opponent, probably something to sell to the public and that or whatever. But the reality is, I think she was a light welterweight coming up. So, and Breckus is big for the weight. So, you know, another dominant victory, obviously.
Thanks, Andy. We're going to be talking a little bit of World Boxing Super Series later, as in the draw was made for the super lightweight tournament, I think it was. Also a bit of DAZN. Let's see who Eddie Hearn's managed to sign up in this big multi-billion-dollar deal that's going to shake up and take over America. Let's go over to, where the hell was it again? Las Vegas, wasn't it? It was the Hard Rock Casino. I know Jim Lampley was pushing this place all night. He must have got a free massage or something. He was really putting it in. Jaime Munguia against Liam Smith. I'm a little bit more sceptical on Munguia after watching that. I know he's only a young guy. I thought he looked a little bit reckless and a little bit wild at times. More questions than answers anyway. I don't blame him. He seems like a realistic kid from what he was talking about in the post-fight interviews. And it was more the HBO hype train that was pushing these narratives. Talking Munguia, Canelo, Aussie. Wise up, Canelo would destroy him. I mean, HBO were crowning Munguia already, but based on what? I mean, he'd battered the smaller, lighter hitting Ali, but their agenda drive was actually making me want Liam Smith to win the fight because are they desperate for a star, Ozzy? Is that what it is? Lampley at the beginning was saying that Liam Smith was a good opponent for Munguia because he wants to see him take on different styles on his way to greatness. Slow that right down. He's raw as hell. The body shots were killers. There's a lot to like about Munguia, but just slow it down a bit, Ozzy. Nice win over Liam Smith. What did you make of it?
Exactly that. I thought Liam Smith asked some questions of him, and at times had quite a bit of success. I think you've got to. Smith's a tough bloke. Forget all the stuff about, you know, all the shit his family gets and things like that. I've always said I think he's the best one out of the brothers, and I don't think he was disgraced in there. I thought the cards were harsh on him. I mean, I think somebody only gave him a round. I thought that was pretty harsh. And I think the one thing he lacked was just a bit of power in his shots. I think if he had a bit more of a dig from where he could do some damage, then I think there was every chance it could have been a lot closer fight. For Munguia, before it, I mean, I never said that Smith could win, but at the same time, I thought Munguia is unproven. Like I said, he destroyed a smaller guy in Saddam Ali, and that's really it. I mean, you've got to remember this guy was put forward as a Golovkin opponent, and I think that would have, whilst it may have been fun, it could well have been a bit of a massacre, to be honest, because he's only 21. I think they do need a star, particularly, and there's lots to like about him. I think it's weird. He is only 21. I think he'd struggle against some of the other champions at the moment, but he's huge at the weight. He must be awful to fight because he's massive at the weight. He hits hard with both hands, and I think it was a solid win for him last night. I think Smith's a decent level at probably European level, to be honest. Could maybe win another world title further down the line, against a particular opponent or something like that. He'd have beaten Saddam Ali, in my opinion. He'll have to rebuild now. I think he's a little way off trying to challenge immediately again. For Munguia, it's going to be interesting to see, because if the HBO want to start, I can't see them chucking him in for unification straight away, to be honest.
No, I don't think so. Kellerman was right to ask about his current level against his eventual ceiling. I think he was just tapering back the hype a little bit. Imagine what a Charlo would do to this kid in his current state. Even the likes of Lara, he'd find that head hanging out. Like I said, I'm not shitting on Munguia at all. I think it was more the HBO drive. Lampley, he was constantly pushing the Hard Rock Casino. He must have been on commission or something. And he came off with an absolute belter in one of the rounds, belly of the week material from Jim Lampley. He said, look at Munguia bouncing on his feet, looking like Oscar De La Hoya at his peak. An Olympic gold medalist, one of the greatest fighters of his era. What if, one of the greatest around of any generation, Oscar De La Hoya, the ultimate refined world champion. Munguia looks like him.
Is that just because he threw a left hook?
At his peak, I don't know what he was doing. He was bouncing around on his feet at the time, Andy, I think. But a moment of the fight for me came after round 8 when Granny Munguia took the false teeth out and started cleaning them. I mean, I was going to take a photo and I didn't.
Mate, listen, you've never wanted a woman more, eh? You've never really wanted to walk out of something and just dip your cock and balls on there at once, have you? You should have been more room for you anyway. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. Whoa.
Would you rather have her, Andy, or Bruce Jenner?
Well, at least Bruce Jenner looks okay,
I tell you what, man, she's looking quite well, whoever she is. This Jenner character.
Well, we need to ask Amir Khan about the down low kind of gear it's packing as well, So what's the horsepower on that one, baby?
Andy, from what you saw of it, though, seriously, I mean, Lederman's scoring I thought was a bit daft. I gave Liam Smith the first 3. Now, the second was a closer round. But Harold Lederman, these days, he tends to score an expectation rather than what's happening. Munguia is the favourite and expected to win. So Harold automatically scores on that preconceived basis. He gives the favourite rounds for by default. And I'm just wondering on this particular issue whether they might put Harold out to pasture soon. He sounded a little bit jaded and tired last night.
Aye, was that the bit when Kellerman mentioned something about the scorecards when he said they have Smith up 3-0? Aye, I remember that. I mean, Harold sat there for decades now. I mean, he's been a judge for like decades as well. But ages he now?
I think he's about 80 or 81. Because Donny seems to know him. I think he might be near 81.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, really, you could get anybody in that can.
Got rid of Larry.
Yeah,
got rid of Merchant.
Larry was kind of struggling by the point, wasn't he? He was definitely struggling by the end. Again, I watched about 9 rounds of it. Smith took a lot of shots, actually. Munguia, I think I maybe got slightly overhyped on his last fight as well against Ali. That maybe I just gave Ali too much credit and just kind of walked through him. But it was an impressive performance nonetheless for Munguia in his last fight. Kind of showed deficiencies. I agree with you, Hurd. I think actually Hurd would maybe even target that fight right now, actually, because I should have read somewhere that the Charlo fight isn't going to happen anytime soon because he wants to test the shoulder out. So that's clearly he's wanting a tune-up fight. Munguia is 21. He's a WBO champ. He's class of world champion. At this point in his career, I know they were talking about developments and stuff like that, but he's a world champion by name. you know, people are going to want to fight you, and you know, you've got a target on your back now, so you need to be taking these fights. You know, and there's only so long they can protect you. So at some point, his car's going to get called. I think. You know, clearly he's going to do a lot of improvement and stuff. But 21 and that, obviously they're going to take it easy with him. But at some point, he's going to get called. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Hurd maybe calling him out for a potential fight next.
Wouldn't be surprised. Can't see him fighting any of those. Joe Gallagher, a tactic of his now, hey to Dave, seems to be telling the fighters to pressure the ref about everything. I remember whenever Crolla fought Linares, Crolla was consistently saying that he was getting hit low, and I noticed a lot of Joe fighters do this now. He must tell them to keep complaining about low blows, hitting after the bell, because I didn't see too many going low. There was the odd one here and there, but Russell Moore was on the Munguia case. I think it was because Smith, by proxy from Gallagher, was putting the pressure on him there, to be honest with you. It seems to be a regular tactic now. Smith's head and elbows were going in a little bit in the clinches, but I give him credit, actually. I think he fought with a lot of balls, he boxed well, he showed commendable staying power. It was generally a good performance from Smith, there's no shame at all, but he lacked the power. Ozzy mentioned it, Andy mentioned it, he just hadn't got... If he was able to give Munguia something to think about coming in, I think it would have been a more interesting fight, and the scores were pretty reflective of the action, I suppose. Munguia took over as the fight went on, but I've gone off on a few tangents here, Dave. Looking forward, Munguia, I'm looking at WBO rankings, got the likes of Dennis Hogan's ranked quite highly, Brandon Cook, who else we got there? Texera, I'd say they'll drag him in, maybe even Ismail Iliev. They're going to feed him a couple of lesser names, Dave, I think, to build up his resume, because he ain't going to be fighting the big boys anytime soon.
I guess it kind of depends what happens. Brandon Cook's fighting next week, right? Next weekend.
Against Sam Eggington.
Yeah, it kind of depends what happens in that fight. I mean, we might learn a little bit about Brandon Cook. I kind of expect him to beat Eggington. Eggington's a guy who's lost to some very journeyman level guys. Yeah, Munguia,
Dave, Egg to get cooked.
Yes, I'm thinking Eggington's going to lose again. Because I mean, I think he really got by on size. I thought, or at least his size was a huge factor for him when he was cutting weight, and he's certainly not a skilled guy. Munguia sort of had his, I wouldn't say exposure last night, but I mean, you can tell he also size played a big factor in his standout win against Saddam Ali, based on his inability to really land clean, meaningful, powerful punches. I think his power got a little overhyped there. But I mean, like you said, he's so young. I mean, if he stays in shape, has a decent trainer, focuses, he can improve. I don't know that he will. I don't have high hopes for him, honestly, but it's possible. This is another Smith brother challenging for a world title. Yet another loss. Do we have to keep seeing this? I mean, it's kind of entertaining. I just wish it was Paul Smith in there taking the shots, because he revealed himself to be a complete cunt again this week.
yeah, that was nasty, that wasn't it?
That was nasty, actually.
Yeah, really bitter and miserable guy. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Gallagher was telling him to complain to the ref. And interesting, it's Russell Moore yet again, the same guy who
your mate
who called borderline low blows, like belt line or above the belt line blows by Katsitas against Guerrero low, docked him a point, and that was right when Katsitas was coming on in that fight, the only moment he had in the fight, really. And of course, ignored every nut shot by Abner Mares against Joseph Agbeko. Infamously, one of the worst refereeing jobs. Probably, I mean, it had to be blatant corruption there that night.
Dave, if you could pick a type of capital punishment to inflict on Russell Moore, what would it be? What would you do to him?
All right. Well, I'm trying to be very Keith Thurman, trying to be zen, peaceful, but probably chop his balls off and let him freeze to death.
Okay, we'll put him in line behind Lawrence Cole. I know Gabe has a Lawrence Cole fetish going on.
Yeah, as he should.
Gabe might be coming on soon. I know that rapping Rob Kelly's en route. The chat are going wild for the sounds of Rob. Paul Edwards was in touch. He said, not sure about you and the guys on the podcast, but for me, watching that fight last night is why I'm so passionate about boxing. When it's good, it's the greatest sport in the world. What fight was he talking about? Might have been Prince Patel. Might have been our next fight that we're talking about. Of course it wasn't. It was Usyk against Gassiev. We'll be asking Rob about that shortly. Also, somebody was in touch with me during the week and he said he wanted to come on the pod, but he couldn't use Google Hangouts. So I said to this gentleman, and I'll say to all of you, if you can't use Hangouts and you're in the UK, then just hit me up with your mobile number or your landline number and I'll just call you over the phone. If you really want to get on that badly and you can't use or won't use Google Hangouts, that's fine. Only if you're in the UK, by the way. If you're outside the UK, I'll maybe, I don't know, WhatsApp you or something because I ain't making that mistake again. Just Twitter me or email nuthousepodcast@gmail.com, nuthousepodcast@gmail.com, and I will ring you up. No barriers here. Right, Andy, I know you didn't see the Alberto Machado against Rafael Mensah fight on the undercard. I will come to you with a question on that soon. Let's go to Ozzy first of all, though. Whenever Mensah was coming into the ring, Ozzy, they were talking about Ike Quarte, they were talking about Azuma Nelson. I was thinking to myself, maybe more Habib Ahmed, who fought Ramirez, maybe more Maxwell Awuku, who fought Miguel Bichelt. The truth, I think, was somewhat in the middle, really, wasn't it? As soon as I saw that old vampire Don King walking out with Mensah, I just sensed an L was coming. Every time this kid threw the lead right, he just pulled his head up in the air and stiffened up. And Machado, he looked better than against Corrales, but the level of opposition may have had something to do with that. I agreed with Max Kellerman, and I thought that Mensah showed absolutely no indication, Ozzy, that he was ever going to turn the fight around. I know Roy Jones took the argument pretty personally as an attack on the profession, but I just found the argument that Mensah should be allowed to take a beating because of his personal circumstances was an uncomfortable position. That shouldn't be coming into the equation. Roy was saying that the referee might have known the fact that Mensah, God help him, his daughter recently died of meningitis, aged 11. He hadn't got paid for his last 30 fights. And Roy Jones suggested that the referee had took all these storylines into consideration, and that's the reason why he wasn't stopping the fight. Bizarre line of argument for me. This kid had nothing to offer. He was game, too game for his own good, too game for his corner, and he was just taking a beating as the fight went on. And I just think, Ozzy, maybe I'm being stupid. The fight was just pointless from about round 7 onwards.
I completely agree. And I mean, what a bizarre thing to say on commentary. What a stupid thing to say that he's insinuating that, oh, he's not stopping it because he feels sorry for him. Bullshit. If he felt sorry for him, he'd pull him out of there just to save him a beating. I mean, this guy himself, I mean, you just look at his record. I mean, what was it? He's not been paid for his last 30 fights. That's because half of them have taken place in the prison canteen. So, I mean, I just don't understand, though, basically, blokes of this ability worm their way into a position from where they can box for a version of a world title. He's never fought out of Ghana. Nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, it usually means that the level of opposition is very poor. And that reflected last night. It was boring at times. It was like you said, it was a non-event after round 7. Look at the scorecards, 120, 107, all across the board. And I mean, like I said, and then you get ludicrous statements from Roy Jones saying, oh, like bringing all the personal things into it. What a disgraceful thing it's just a joke, absolute bollocks. And he must have taken a couple of pills or something like that just to suggest things, because it's completely irrelevant, really. And it just doesn't do anything for me. I don't think you can take much away from the performance, to be honest, either for Mercado, because what do you learn? Yeah, he's a tough Ghanaian, but when his last 2 opponents were 8-14 and 6-7, and he's going to points with them, and then he stopped one of them, I think it says it all, really. And it is what it is with these governing bodies. You're always going to see fighters like this worm their way into situations, and you never learn anything from it. And like I said, Mercado, he got a win, but what did we learn from it? Not a lot.
Didn't really learn a hell of a lot, to be honest with you. You could say Mensah didn't box very smart. Andy, I know you only saw fleeting glances of this one, so we'll keep it quite generic. Freddie Roach comparing Machado to a young Manny Pacquiao. I know Roach is one of the most egregious publicists in the boxing game, but he did say that. Machado, on the other hand, he does seem to be improving, Andy. He does seem to be getting better. But as I said before, it's maybe something to do with the level of opposition. But as Ozzy said, I mean, the referee and the officials are there to observe what is happening in the ring there and then, not what has happened up to that point in the fighter's life and the fact that he has not got paid in his previous bouts. It was a strange discussion. Roy pretty much in the end pulled the old, well, I'm the pro boxer, Kellerman sort of sit-down card, and I agreed with Kellerman's arguments, but it was an interesting back and forth. I know I shit on HBO for going into the bargain basement of fights, and Mensah wasn't the greatest, but he stuck in there and took his lumps. Stacey McKinley in the corner. I'm sure you remember him, Andy. In being in the Mike Tyson corner. Anyway, apologies, this is the longest sort of question in history. What about Machado against the likes of Gervonta Davis, Miguel Bichelt? What are you thinking, Andy?
Well, I think Gervonta Davis, he's going on some sort of kind of social media kind of warpath now with that. Well,
some rapper or something,
no, it's Oscars, that Ryan Garcia.
Oh, Ryan Garcia, they're offering to fight each other at houses, aren't they?
Aye, so I think they're going to have a sparring session, but I think they're really trying to get that fight made. And I read somewhere as well that, so that was maybe the WB title. I don't even think Garcia would be right, but the thing is,
Davis had this title as well. Sorry, Andy, didn't he? Against Francisco Fonseca, didn't make the weight. They stripped him, so it's unlikely he's going to go back down that path again.
Well, this is the thing. I'm sure there was some sort of legal, challenge or something like that, because Davis was the super champ and Machado. See, this is the division where there's 2 titles and stuff. You got James Tennyson potentially for Machado. I know he beat Corrales to win the title, so that is a good win. Maybe Renny Alvarado, he had a good win over Denis Shavakov. I think it was late last year. So there's a couple of there's fights out there. I really don't know what's going to happen with Davis. Actually, I think Davis is simply kind of like mooching around, trying to get a big money fight. I really, he is another Broner, by the way. His heart's not in the game. He's playing at it. He's just looking for, we know what's happened with his financial situation with Floyd and that as well. So we know what he's all about. Guys like also runs maybe like Jesus Cuellar for the likes of Machado as well. Brian Vasquez, I think he might have been a former champion a few years back. So there's a couple of fighters there for him actually, but again, it's a title situation. Do you call him a world champion? For me, no, he's no the legit champ. Or again, I don't know. I need to go and look into the kind of situation again with that Davis title, but it's a situation needs to get ironed out, because I know that Corrales fight was for the vacant title.
Quick word from you, Dave. Super featherweight, not the most intriguing division at the moment. Davis is doing his own thing. Machado, Bichelt, vacant. IBF, I think that Farmer and Dib are contesting that. That was made vacant after Farmer was beaten, controversially, by Ogawa. Also, the WBO, I think Christopher Diaz is fighting Masayuki Ito next week on a top-ranked card to decide the WBO title. Any interest in super featherweight, Dave, or junior lightweight, as you call it, or lesser welterweight, or whatever you want to know it as? 130?
No, only I guess Gervonta is meaningful there. I don't see any of those guys beating him, and he's probably going to be moving up soon, probably to 135 or 140. Who knows what's going on with his promotion? I know he's pissed at Floyd half the time. So I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm not very interested in that division. Most of those fighters, Dib, come on, that's how old news are we talking here? And that's the fight they're giving to Tevin Farmer. That's pretty poor. I thought they were going to make Farmer versus Davis because they had like that out of the ring beef, and it's actually a reasonably interesting style matchup. See how Davis faces a slick guy who moves.
Be a good fight, that, I think.
Yeah, I like that. That's probably the only thing that interests me around that division.
Dave. Sorry, go ahead.
Does Davis have anything scheduled? I haven't looked.
No, I don't think so.
No, as it says, the thing with Davis, that the most recent thing with him is he's wanting a sparring session with him and that fucking pussy, that Ryan Garcia.
That's not gonna. I mean,
they're not going to put Garcia in with Davis. I've said it before. Garcia is attracted to this. Is attracting this female teeny bopper demographic that boxing has never seen the likes of, possibly since his promoter Oscar was about. They're going to handle him relatively with kids' gloves, I think, to try and build him up into a pay-per-view star. There's no chance they're going to chuck him over against Davis. I wouldn't have thought.
That's ridiculous. Though. I mean, if Davis, if that's something he's holding out for, I mean, you don't hold out for a sparring session. You get in there, you get real fights, you make money. You advance your career. So he better get something scheduled quick and make the most of his prime. But obviously the promotional situation may be in the way of that, which would be a terrible waste because the guy's young, he's in his prime, he's seemingly getting better, seemingly getting more disciplined with his recent move to, away from Baltimore. I don't know where he moved to. He didn't he move to train with Cunningham?
Yeah, isn't he with Broner or something?
Yeah,
now?
And
Is that a good move, Dave?
Same...
Is moving towards Broner ever a good idea?
Well, they both fought on the same card. I think changing trainers was good, but he looked a lot better than Broner did. That's for sure. He looked a lot more disciplined.
Dave, if you thought that the World Boxing Super Series was the biggest cruiserweight fight of the weekend, you'd be wrong, because John Pascal's up at cruiserweight now, and on Friday night, he knocked out Steve Bosse, who apparently, according to BoxRec, is only 1-0. Eighth round.
Somebody's had to go. Wow, he beat an undefeated guy. I thought John was done.
I don't know. It's dangerous, though, isn't it, Pascal? Even though he got the win, it's like a fight that sort of encourages him to stick around and maybe makes him think, oh, maybe I could have one last run at the cruiserweight division now. I mean, it's not going to get... The punches aren't going to be any softer up at that new weight, are they?
No, you flash back to that night, well, both nights, really, against Kovalev when his daughter was crying at ringside. Our own Kurt Ward made a little montage of that with the Predator music playing. It's like a close-up of the kid crying. It was brutal. I mean, the guy has a hard head and takes a good shot. So when you fight a guy who can punch like Kovalev, you're going to be in some serious pain. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's already brain damaged. He didn't seem like the brightest bulb even before that, but his very awkward style and good athleticism made him quite a good fighter. And he's had a respectable career, very respectable. He was a lineal light heavyweight champion. So I would like to see him retire if he can afford it.
Okay, we'll be going to Rob soon with the rest of the cruiserweight action. Let's wrap up this one on the 21st of July. Vivian Harris against DeMarcus Corley, in case you're wondering how this ended up. Corley now has 31 losses on the slate. He lost a unanimous decision to Harris, the vacant American Boxing Federation, Continental Americas super welterweight title. That's worth reading again, isn't it? The vacant American Boxing Federation, Continental Americas super welterweight title is now in possession of Vivian Harris.
It was vacant too.
That's a belt. I beat DeMarcus Corley, so that was a rematch as well. He'd already beaten Corley. Corley, it's not going to end well for him, I don't think, if it ever does end. Danny Williams is fighting Lee McAllister next weekend. I don't know whether we should leave that for Bellew of the Week or what, Andy. I mean, quickly, like, what the hell is going on there?
What was that, mate? Sorry.
Malta Boxing Commission, Lee McAllister moving up to heavyweight to fight Danny Williams next week.
NBC, I tell you, what was it they said? Fucking McAllister's put on something like fucking 4 stone. I'm like, what? I'm telling you, man. I mean, I see cunts are moaning about that UFC card just now, right? They say, like, I think it's Danny Robson's going on about the fact that there's no fucking knockouts. You need to get rid of USADA. Well, I'll tell you what, you need to get a USADA like company to go to that fucking Lee McAllister and get him drug tested by you, because I'm fucking telling you, he's on that hot sauce. He's going to be. Got to be.
Aye. I would imagine so.
I'll tell you what, see if he does take a dig actually and he actually gets injured, there's going to be hell to pay here.
I'm worried about Williams getting injured though, Andy, because his head doesn't, it's not going to be getting any better taking these punches.
Remember we had Don Charles on, actually. I think Don's quite pally with him, that he was going to try and speak to him about his career and that, but what can you do, man? He's just, I mean, what is he getting paid at this point? He must be doing 3 figures now. He must be getting like £100 to turn up.
You would imagine so. Just about to bring Rob Kelly in, and he's disappeared. Sorry, Rob, I was coming to you there. Right, Ozzy, let's ask you something then while we await. Let's talk about the World Boxing Super Series draw. Andy I'm grateful to you, Andy, for putting it up in our Twitter chat so I can read it off here. Tell me, Ozzy, first of all, about the 120. No, it's not 122. It's 118, isn't it? Sorry, the 118 draw. Ryan Burnett. I'm assuming, Ozzy, sorry, they picked their... This is still the same process. They picked who they wanted, the 4 seeds?
Yes, for this one it is, yeah.
Right, okay. So Ryan Burnett chose Nonito Donaire. Emmanuel Rodriguez, his mandatory was already Jason Maloney, so that was sorted. Naoya Inoue chose to dissect the body of Juan Carlos Payano. And Zolani Tete goes in against someone who I know absolutely nothing about, Mikhail Aloyan. What do you think about the draw, the picks, the fights, your overall thoughts, Ozzy, on that 118 tournament?
I mean, the tournament itself is superb. I think it's on a par with the cruiserweight one for names. It's an exciting one. Am I shocked by any of the picks? Not really. Burnett was ranked, seeded in at 1. Some people didn't necessarily agree with that because they feel Inoue is the man, but prior to this, Burnett was unified. So whilst people may not agree with it, I can see why it was done. He's in with Donaire. I think Donaire could cause problems for him. It just depends how he makes this weight. I think, is it, 3 years now that he's not made 118 pounds? So it's not going to be easy for him to get down.
Not going to end well, I don't think.
No, and he's a weird one, Bennett. He used to be great to watch, I thought, but I think under Booth, his style is pretty boring, to be honest. Who else is there? In a way, we all know what's going to happen there. He's going to destroy Payano. Rodriguez, Maloney. I've not seen a lot of Maloney, so I don't really know, to be honest, what's going to happen. That was the only fight that was set in stone. And then that left Tete with the Russian lad. Now, I think he's only 4-0, this Russian. But the fast-tracking him, apparently he was an excellent amateur. I just think it may be a bit too early for him because Tete can keep it long. And Tete's huge at the weight as well. I mean, I don't know if people have seen him live before, but how big he actually is compared to some of these guys. He's huge. His back's massive. So I expect him to... I think he'll win on points there. I don't think it'll be a very interesting fight. But overall, the tournament is superb. And this is the one good thing about these sort of tournaments is that the money is there to get all the big names in one pot. And then they can fight each other. I mean, the semi-finals, should results go as expected, it would see Tete in with Ryan Burnett, a fight that a lot of people have been wanting to see before. And thanks to this tournament, it could well be happening.
Andy, moving up to 140, I know people were complaining about the name power and the star power and stuff, but sometimes I just like to see fighters more or less on an equal footing of equal ability levels being put in against each other. And I think that's what we've got in the 140 tournament. They may not be the most high-profile names you've ever heard, but I think they're going to be good competitive fights. I mean, you've got Anthony Yigit against Ivan Baranchik. I fancy Baranchik in that one. Edward Troyanovsky was a seed, I think. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe Relic was the seed anyway, but they're fighting each other. Josh Taylor, Ryan Martin. I've been a Ryan Martin fan for a while now. I think that could be a really interesting fight. And Regis Prograis, even though I am a fan of Prograis, he hasn't fought anybody and his style is very aggressive. I think Terry Flanagan is big for the weight. He's a spoiler. If he gets hold of Prograis, slows down his momentum, I would not be at all surprised to see Flanagan drowning Prograis and taking him into deep waters. I certainly don't think he's going to get stopped. Overall thoughts, same as Ozzy, but regarding the 140 tournament for you, Andy?
I'll need to actually go and watch a bit more of Ryan Martin, actually. But I do suspect Josh Taylor should win it. Do you agree with that one, Steve? I'll need to actually go and watch more of him. But I agree with you about the Flanagan comments, for example. I mean, some people were saying that Prograis is going to destroy him, and that I do not believe that for a second. Flanagan might be a lot of things, or he's maybe not a lot of things, but one thing he isn't is soft. The kid's fucking
he's
tough.
A unit, isn't he?
Oh, he's a fucking big laddie, like, you know, and he's for a tough area and that. So, you know, there's no way he's going to yield and get fucking folded up without a fight. People can be rest assured on that one. So, decent jab, southpaw as well. So, you know, you're right. It could be, you know, could be interesting. Troyanovsky, Relic, and that I fancy Relic. I think he'll be a bit kind of relentless. And you get against Baranchik. See that Baranchik by it? That guy is an aircraft carrier. His back is fucking huge.
He never stops coming forward, does he?
He came out. You see that suit that he had on? It looked like a fucking straight jacket. He looked like he couldn't move in the fucking thing. You know, if
Yigit can't keep him off him, he's going to be in big trouble.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. Yigit's not really a big puncher. He's me a classic boxer, and you know it's obviously a class of styles and that. But again, what I was going to say and stuff. You know, if you're a trainer, for example, and someone comes to you and you say, right, okay, here I've got an opponent for your fighter. I've got a gate and I give you two opponents for you. One's a boxer that you know can go 12 rounds, or one's like a banger that can, you know, that you know can maybe go 6 at a decent pace. You're obviously going to go and pick the boxer, aren't you? So it's really going to be an interesting fight, this.
What I will say is, Andy, as well, sorry to interrupt you, I know that Yigit early in his career fought Phil Sutcliffe Jr., obviously on a lot lesser level than Baranchik, but very similar sort of style, hands up, stocky, really big puncher Sutcliffe, despite his limitations. And Yigit managed to fiddle him around for, I think it was only an 8-rounder or something, long enough. So he has got a sort of blueprint there, maybe.
Aye. It will definitely make it a competitive fight, providing he doesn't get caught. But he's a very good boxer. You get Troyanovsky, Relic. As I said, I'm going to go with Relic in that one. I'm going to watch more of Ryan Martin over the coming weeks and that, but I'll pick Taylor and Prograis, Flanagan. Again, it's all going to depend where some of these fights are going to get held. There might be a difference and stuff, but I might say Prograis might win it by close decision, maybe a split. Again, it's interesting to see where they're going to hold the Taylor fight, because obviously, Cyclone have made commenting that the last fight for Taylor, his last fight could be the last one in Scotland for
the America, Andy. I'm pretty sure of it. It reeks of the situation whenever Frampton signed with Al Heyman, and they're sending out the press releases saying, we're delighted to have Al Heyman on board, like he was going to make the tea or something. This is a power broker move. They'll be taking him over to America to get him paid. I think it just fits in perfectly because they haven't got the clout to bring them here, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. What about one question I could probably put to Oz, and actually, is are you glad, are you happy actually that Prograis picked Flanagan instead of Martin then? Because Flanagan Taylor might have been an absolute shit fest possibly. We're not saying Prograis Flanagan's going to be like fight of the year, but I'm just happy we didn't get that. I was happy we got Taylor fighting the other guy compared to fighting Flanagan.
I'm surprised, Ozzy, that he picked Flanagan. I really am. I would have maybe gone for Troyanovsky or somebody.
We couldn't, could he? Prograis had a sort of toss-up of two. It was either
Martin Flanagan, yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry, boys, yeah.
This was a bit different, this one, because there was so many fights agreed with the governing bodies going into it. Prograis held the cards of basically who Josh Taylor was going to fight, and I was talking to John Evans about it, and we both thought that Prograis would go with Martin, leaving Taylor and Flanagan. So it was a bit of a shock, to be honest, to see that he selected Flanagan over Martin. I quite fancy Flanagan in this fight, to be honest. I mean, I've seen people saying that he's going to get wiped out in a round and stuff like that. I just can't see that happening whatsoever. Prograis is relatively untested, to be honest. And whilst...
He's fought nobody, Ozzy. I'm a fan, and he's fought absolutely nobody.
Yeah. Whereas, I mean, I know we saw Flanagan against Hooker, and I've since learned that he had a few problems. I mean, a big problem is that he came back he did some training overseas, I think in Tenerife or something like that, or Fuerteventura. Came back, was absolutely flying in the gym, doing really well in sparring. And then the fight got pulled. And then I think it added another 8 weeks onto his camp or something like that.
And Prograis doesn't box like Hooker, does he? He comes straight forward. He's not
he'll stand in front of Flanagan and plant his feet and look to land his shots. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as people are making out. And Flanagan will be going to America. There's going to be no pressure on him. I think it's fair to say, but off the early remarks, no one's expecting him to win. So he can go over there and he knows that he's nothing to lose. He's a decent fighter. I do rate him as much as I think people have took a bit away from the performance against Hooker. He does have his skills. He's a tough guy, and he can make it ugly as well. We've seen that. He'll stick a nut in if he has to. He's a big bloke still for 10 stone. So I think that's going to be an interesting one, and I genuinely wouldn't be shocked if he won. I don't know much about Martin. I would expect Taylor to win. That might be a bit naive from my part, but I really rate Taylor very highly, and I think he's probably up there as one of the best in the division, if not the best. So that'd be a huge shock if he struggled with this one, particularly after his performance against Postal as well. And the other two fights are what they are. Yiji, he's a bit of an odd one, really. I mean, his last fight, I think, was against Joe Hughes, was it? Which was, he's only ever campaigned, really, at a British level at best. So it's an odd one, really. That'll be an interesting fight. Like we said, we know we can box, but he's feather-fisted. So I think when you get to a certain level, if you can't keep your opponent off you, your skills will only get you so far unless you are the best of the best.
Yeah, I wonder if Taylor Martin might end up like a sort of Froch Durrell type fight. I have nothing to back that up. It just came into my head. And regarding Tete, I'll be honest with you, I just don't know where I place Tete at the moment. I don't know whether I rate him or whether I don't rate him. He's huge, like Ozzy says. And I've seen him wipe out that Siboney's Gagne in about 6 seconds. And I mean, Gagne was terrible, and he got rid of him. I've also seen him completely stink the place out against Narvaez. He's banged out Butler. He's looked poor against, was it Villanova? He's gone through the motions. Which Tete is going to turn up? Is he going to bang you out? Is he going to come and stink the place out? I just don't know how good he is. I honestly don't know if he is this beastly machine that people say, or whether he's overrated and he's a bit of a spoiler and he goes through the motions. I just don't know where to rate him. So I suppose we'll learn a lot about his performance anyway in that particular fight. Right, Rob Kelly Delighted to have you on with us at Rob H. Kelly on Twitter, everybody. Simon Alevy said, Rob, of the Usyk Gassiev fight last night, unbelievable performance. Best cruiserweight of all time for me, says Simon Alevy. It's extremely difficult to beat fighters with that kind of work rate. Armstrong, Pryor, Calzaghe showed that perhaps even getting the benefit of a couple of close decisions because of their work rate. Here's the question, Rob. Here comes the question for you from Simon Alevy. What do the panel think of Usyk's heavyweight chances, and where do you have him on the all-time cruiserweight list? Heavyweight chances, all-time cruiserweight, Rob?
I think it's a bit early to say where he is on the all-time cruiserweights. Obviously, he's cleaned out the division now, but there's been some really good fighters there over the years. So after 15 fights, I parked that one. How do I see him doing that heavyweight? I don't know. I think he was masterful last night. He's banged out fellas along the way, but in this tournament, he's shown that he can box to a decision as well, quite comfortably. So good on the jab. I know he's a little bit small for the likes of AJ Fury, but against a Huey Fury or someone, I think I'd probably favor him. Maybe against Povetkin, I'd favor him. I don't know. I'd have to see him out before I can make a judgment on him. But he has all the attributes anyway. He can punch. He can box. He's just good to watch, isn't he? So, and he did it the hard way, as well in that, beating Breedis as well along the way. And he had good wins against Slovakia and everything that before the tournament. So, no, I like Usyk, but I think he'll be looking for big fights now from here in. I'm not surprised that Bellew, whose name is getting bandied about. He's going to want a payday now, because there's no other really exciting opponents there that he hasn't fought kind of at cruiserweight. He kind of do a job on all of them. So he'll want a big money fight, kind of similar to Ward when he cleared out the super middleweights. You want to be involved in big fights. So maybe those big fights are going to be at heavyweight for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were discussing that earlier, and Ben Churchard described it as a masterclass. He said Usyk jab and footwork were far too much for Gassiev. That jab is a weapon.
Well,
for me, the best in boxing right now.
Yeah, his jab was brilliant, and it was the difference between him and Munguia, because Munguia had no jab basically, for the first 4 or 5 rounds, and
he threw the lead left hook to the body. You don't see that too often.
Yeah, which is, and a lead left hook is so hard to throw anyway. So I don't know, it's kind of sad times for HBO. I know we touched on this before, on one of the pods anyway. I don't know if it was a Patreon one or not, but HBO are devoid of stars now, aren't they? And they needed a big Mexican star, and they kind of backed the house on me, or put the house on Munguia, and from that point of view, it was kind of a disappointing performance from him, because I know the public and certainly the HBO panel expected something different. They expected a breakout performance for him, and it was the performance reminded me a little bit of when Canelo was fighting the likes of Ryan Rhodes, and that when you're just expecting him to do better and he doesn't, you know what I mean?
Matthew Hatton and all them, yeah.
Matthew Hatton is another example, yeah, when where they're giving him problems where he's built up so much, so they desperately need a Mexican pay-per-view style, and they're putting the house on Munguia, so I think Lara had boxed the ears off him, I think Lara had given him real trouble, but if he wants to keep people's interest, they're going to have to give him opponents like Lara, I don't think he'd want any part of Howard. Although him and Howard would be a monstrous clash.
They're all over the other side of the fence, though, aren't they, Rob? That's the problem. He can avoid the PBC lot.
Yeah, Charlo will probably bust him up as well. But
yeah.
But I don't think he's going to be able to stick around at middleweight for too long. So he's going to need probably a Lara before he moves up, because he looked dated at the weigh-in. Anyone see any footage of him? He looked absolutely dated at the weight. Trying to get down to 154, so he's not going to be. I don't really think he's going to be able to stick around there too much longer unless he starts eating some Mexican tacos. You know what I mean?
Did you see the HBO feed last night, Rob?
Yeah, I was watching it. Yeah, Jones was giving Smith a lot of credit. I thought, there's no sauce on Smith's shots. There's nothing on him.
That was the problem, wasn't it?
Yeah, he just couldn't put a dent in him. And a fella like that's so big that can just keep coming forward, but nothing special. As Big Bro says, straight up and down, no special effects. You know what I mean?
Regarding size, I thought it was interesting the way Jones was constantly commending fighters in both of the main event and the co-headliner about fighters who were draining themselves down in weight. He's like, oh, he's been smart. He's put on 15 pounds after the weigh-in. It was strange from Jones, I thought.
Well, probably, but then when you think that Roy Jones is into like cockfighting and all that, would it be like giving away £15? What is it, a pound for? Yeah, so we're giving away £1 per bird. Like, but Roy be thinking about these things very deeply. You know what I mean?
You ever been to the cockfighting, Rob?
No, not myself, but I knew a fella that had a few fighting cocks.
Stay with us as long as you want. Last few questions, then we'll go on to the previews for next week and also the Bellew of the Weeks. A bit of a strange one for you, hater Dave Loback, from Mohammed Mia. I don't know how much you know about these YouTube sensations, but Mohammed is asking you, I know this has been spoken about briefly, but this YouTube fight between KSI versus Logan Paul, whoever those two characters are, have sold out the Manchester Arena and press conferences that real boxers and promoters can only dream of. What can we learn from these YouTubers, hater Dave?
That cunt fought recently, did they know?
Yeah, this is probably not a good thing to learn. But I mean, unfortunately, it's what sells in combat sports is WWE theatrics and bullshit and beef and all that. I'm aware of who Logan Paul is. I don't know who KSI is. Logan Paul's that a douchey bro type who has a bunch of 12-year-old fans, and those are the ones I'm sure who are going to these press conferences. It's similar to what you were talking about with Ryan Garcia. This is an avenue of fandom and that is not seen in boxing, and I guess maybe
Dave, excuse my ignorance. Isn't Logan Paul that guy? I think he crossed over into the mainstream news. Didn't he go into like a suicide garden and start taking photos? Is that him?
Come back.
Yes, that's him. He also has like a little brother. I don't know if it's his twin brother or what, who's also a douche and like sets his house on fire. They're complete morons. They have, I don't know why they have fans. I guess they're good looking by a certain standard. But I mean,
Go on,
don't know much about them. Their music is shit. I guess they make music too. I don't know why.
According to the chat, it's $6.99 for the pay-per-view, and they're going to make over 2 million. There's going to be over 2 million people watching, says Callum Frith.
Absolutely.
So, you know,
one of them's training in the Mayweather gym.
It's bonkers. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
I mean, I don't know who KSI is. I probably hope he gets iced too. But I know Logan Paul is a terrible person, douche. So I want him to get smashed. Maybe a double knockout would be nice here.
Rob, forget about
I doubt we're going to see anybody knocked out.
Can I say, did you say it was £6 for the pay-per-view? How many people were buying it?
$6.99, and they're going to get 2 million views, according to Callum Frith. So I mean, that's
about 50 million. Fuck off!
No wonder Mayweather's training one of them. Floyd Senior trying to get that paper, baby.
Fuck it! There's no way.
Apparently so, Andy. They've sold out the Manchester Arena, and the press conferences are all wild or something.
Right, wait a minute. You try to tell me this guy here, right, or these two fighters, or who these two characters are going to generate 50 million quid over a boxing fight on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And Eddie Hearn hasn't got this cunt employed yet. Are you fucking...
These fellas get like million views on them just talking shit, like walking around their house and all. Like,
why's Frank Warren no fucking getting a hold of this cunt and fucking getting him on the show?
Because they're making money and getting views. That's why Frank's not involved.
Frank could get a fucking leg up here, for Christ's sake.
All I can think about when I hear
YouTube channels started by maybe Eddie should start a reality show on YouTube with some of his guys. Probably do well.
KSI, I see this now. Forget about KSI, Rob. What about KLF? Do you remember them?
Fucking
KLF, we're going to rock you. What was I going to say? Yeah, no, the only thing that I think about when those two are fighting and they're generating that kind of money is, how are we not bigger? We should be fucking rolling in it.
we can talk shit and we are going to get about 2,000 views. And have these scumbag cunts in the chat abusing us. No offense, chat.
Pay-per-view.
Any of us would probably beat the shit out of these guys too.
I wouldn't. Right, let's move on. Ozzy, final jokey question is to you from Matt Ports. He says, whose fans are the most deluded, Femi's or Liverpool's?
Oh, toughie. Gotta go with Joshua's. That guy can't do anything wrong.
Joshua created the holy water, do you ken that?
Well, let's get on to the previews for next week. I mentioned this one earlier. Christopher Diaz is fighting Masayuki Ito for the vacant WBO super featherweight title. That's a top-ranked show. We're not worried too much about that. Let's delete. Let's get stuck into this big pay-per-view then. Big pay-per-view action over the weekend. How much is it, Andy? I think about 20 quid for Dillian Whyte against Joseph Parker.
I don't know, mate. I'm watching it on a stream. I was one of the few who was happy to pay last night. I paid $9.95 that pay-per-view. Next week, it's back to usual means. Listen on the radio.
I'm liking these, Andy. I'm liking these titles that are on offer. I tell you what, it's definitely worth the £20. You've got the vacant WBO International Heavyweight title and the World Boxing Council Silver Heavyweight title. I mean, if that doesn't equate to pay-per-view worthy, you know what does? Dillian Whyte, Joseph Parker. Come on, Andy.
We've got Chisora fighting Carlos Takam for the prestigious title that Ali always wanted to win. It was a WBA International title. Joshua Batsi he's fighting Bob Anderson for the WBC International Light Heavyweight title. You know, what are we? We're 5 days away almost. Just 6 days away for the event, and Boatsi's still not got an opponent yet. I know he had Craig Summers. I know he pulled out and stuff, but you think that there's something in the pipeline. Eddie's always a forward thinker. It always made sense. Eddie was getting all the fucking slaps in the back for having Povetkin as a stand-in in case Parker got injured for the Joshua fight. Did he not have one in for the Takam fight as well? When forget who it was anyway. But Eddie's.
Well, on this one, he's got Takam Chisora ready to step in, hasn't he?
Aye, well, suppose. Fucking imagine Chisora the way.
You know what, Andy? I'm going for White. My head says, Parker, hope he wins, got to win. But there's just something about this fight. Dillian Whyte's going to find a way, isn't he? And then he's going to have currency to be able to challenge for the world heavyweight title. And you know what? If you put together Chisora, Helenius, who else did he beat? Lucas Brown. And then if he beats Parker, I mean, I know it's a shit resume, but you've got the likes of Brazil fighting for world titles. You've got Molina fighting for world titles. They could seriously, justifiably say that Whyte is worthy of a rematch against AJ after he's got through Povetkin, after he's got through Jarrell Miller. I'm not saying I'm agreeing with this shit, but
No.
In today's current climate of heavyweights, Andy, you could legitimately make that case.
You could say so. I think if Whyte does win this legitimately, I think you could probably say he deserves a chance at the world title. I think I would agree with that. If you get Povetkin getting a shot coming off 2 drug bans and a couple of easy tune-ups and stuff to get a world title fight, Pulev still kind of kicking around there at Puspid level and that as well. Does he deserve another chance at world title? Probably not. Briswell, I agree with you. So you would think, Whyte, conceivably, if he beats Parker, who is probably a solid top 10 heavyweight, he probably does deserve his chance. I think the thing with Whyte is, I think Whyte's when he lets his punches go, and if he does look like it's connecting, I think it's going to look like it's doing more damage than what it is. Parker's going to have to put on a performance like near Usyk fucking type levels. He's going to have to kind of win rounds very clear. He kind of leave tight rounds and kind of try and nick it late because it's just never going to happen. If Hearn is protecting Femi, then he's going to have to get Whyte through this fight and then obviously put him in for the Femi fight. But I think maybe slightly underestimating Parker. Parker can fight, he can box when he has to as well. If he does get Whyte hurt, he will step in for it. But has he got the power? Probably no. Whyte has shown that he is durable, he is tough, and he has proven in the last couple of fights that he has got a true heavyweight dig and he can put people to sleep. But I don't know if he put Parker to sleep. If anything, it'll go the distance, and I'll agree with you. I think Whyte will probably shade out in the cards like something like 116, 112, and probably a 118, 110 by some arsehole just to fucking make sure that he wins it.
Sometimes, Ozzy, I think that we let our hatred of, I'm not saying I hate Whyte, but our, distaste or whatever for a fighter cloud our judgment. And then I find myself picking against the likes of Broner, the likes of O'Hara Davis, when realistically I should be looking at it more objectively. It's those type of feelings and thoughts that led me down the route to picking Lucas Brown to beat Dillian Whyte, which was in hindsight, a poor decision. But I'm going to go for it. I think Whyte's going to beat Parker. I genuinely do, Ozzy. I think it'll go over the distance. I don't think there's going to be a knockout in this one. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I can't see a stoppage from either fighter, to be honest. I've got to admit that the fight does absolutely nothing for me, to be honest. It was a surprise when it was made because there's no real point in it. I'm surprised they've not managed to get an eliminator for it by any of the governing bodies, which is pretty odd considering these days. But I'm torn on it. He's not bad, to be honest. I mean, I thought his performance against Joshua was. I thought the scorecards were poor, and the fight was a lot closer than that. And Andy's right, he can box. But judging him off his last couple of performances, I mean, against Hughie Fury, he was very poor. I think there was arguments that people thought he lost that fight. The fight with that Razvan Kajanu was horrendous. The Andy Ruiz one was close as well. But then he's shown that he can. I mean, the Takam fight, I thought he showed a lot about him, and that was probably one of his better performances, but that's coming up to a couple of years ago now. Dillian White, he is what he is, isn't he? He stopped a slobby Lucas Brown. Not exactly a shock. I mean, I openly tipped Lucas Brown because I thought if he came in the shape he did against Chagayev, I thought he genuinely could stop White, but he didn't. He was a fat pig. It says it all now that he held his hand up and he's getting himself in shape now. I mean, he's calling out Dave Allen, Lucas Brown, fuck knows why. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be an entertaining fight. I think White may just have a bit too much for him, and he'll probably take it by 4 or 5 rounds. And I fully expect to see it'll be AJ against DW in April, but it's not going to be Deontay Wilder. It's going to be Dillian White too.
Rob, if he beats Parker, I wouldn't begrudge him a shot, to be honest. Like I said, in the context of the heavyweight division, where you've got Bryant Jennings relevant, you've got Alex Dimitrenko, you've got Kubrat Pulev, Fraser Quendo, Manuel Char. They're all eminently relevant fighters in and around the title scene, for better or for worse. So if White beats Parker, why not White?
Yeah, probably will get a shot at you probably will get a shot at Wilder after
Freudian slip.
Parker, yeah. Man, like I don't know. Like, this fight is just going to be dull as dishwater. Like, it's going to be terrible. Like, Parker's not exactly like, you know, explosive or anything. Like, he gets the job done in the fights that he wins, and then the ones that he loses, the ones that he lost, they still didn't look too amazing. Like, it just makes for a dull fight. White, I suppose, can be explosive in terms of his punching power, but like, what kind of shape is he going to be in? He's been in good shape recently, I suppose, but I don't know. Like, I just think this will be a sloppy fight over 12 rounds, and even if Parker wins, he's not going to get the decision. Like, so, yeah, they're going to definitely try to maneuver White versus Wilder, and Wilder will probably end up having to take that fucking White fight, like, because he knows that AJ fight's not going to manifest itself until Eddie says it is. Like, so, yeah, it's a pity with the heavyweights at the moment. I really wanted that Wilder Joshua one to come off, but knowing Eddie, I knew it wasn't going to happen. Like, yeah. So, but I don't really care about this fight, to be honest with you.
Just looking down the undercard, it's piss poor fare, to be honest. Sam Eggington has stepped in for Kell Brook against Brandon Cook. I'm glad Cook's got a fight, actually, to be honest. I thought they would get him somebody because it was bad form what happened to him from his perspective. Derek Chisora, Carlos Takam, Anthony Fowler going in against Craig O'Brien. No opponent for Joshua Boatse, Katie Taylor, Kimberly Connor, which looks like its chief support, and Conor Benn rematching this Cedric Payno. Hater Dave, final word to you. Ian John Lewis is the referee. Could we see a possible hover stoppage?
Are we talking about the main event?
Certainly are.
Okay. I mean, he seems to be, I'm talking about Ian John Lewis, he seems to be walking on eggshells lately. Which of course could lead to an even worse performance than we're used to from him. I mean, because he could jump the gun. He's a nervous enough referee as it is, but he does seem to be doing his job better lately. Maybe he's just more focused. I don't know. Maybe he's been seeing a sports psychologist. Whatever. I'm not too worried about the referee. I think that Dillian White has enough to outwork Joseph Parker. I think he's going to win on points. I think even if it's close, he's going to probably most likely get the decision. Joseph Parker is more skilled, I think, faster, but I think he's got gas tank issues. In all the fights I've seen him in, he hasn't thrown a great deal of shots, and in several of them, he has looked like he's tired. I think he actually outworked Andy Ruiz, just throwing more power shots than Andy Ruiz did. But he didn't throw a great deal of punches, and he still looked tired in that fight. He tired against Takam. although I think he got his second win. He didn't throw enough against Joshua, although Joshua was one of his better performances for me, considering the level the guy was in with. Didn't throw a great deal against Huey Fury. It was a scrappy, ugly fight. I don't think he's going to throw enough, so even when he does make Dillian Whyte look dumb and catch him with something clean, I don't think it's going to be enough to take enough rounds for him, and I don't think his power is significant enough to bother Dillian Whyte, or at least stop Dillian Whyte. Whyte was hurt several times against Joshua before the big uppercut that iced him, and he survived it well. He fiddled through it. He was in, and I assume he's going to be in the best shape of his career for this. He was in pretty good shape for Lucas Brown, and he seems to be taking things more seriously now. Dillian Whyte's a guy who has a good engine, good body attack, mixes it up pretty well. I'm not a hater of his. Not a huge fan either, but I think he's going to win this, and I think he'll probably do it fairly. So yeah, on to the next for him. I wouldn't mind him getting a Wilder shot if he did this. Will Eddie be able to work with Wilder after the bullshit that's happening? I mean, they're getting away with one. I mean, this pay-per-view next week. It's not a bad card. Whether I don't think it should be pay-per-view, but it's not a bad card. Dillian Whyte versus Parker is a solid.
It is
fight.
a bad card. It is a bad card.
Well, for pay-per-view, but I don't think it's a bad card.
It is a bad card, pay-per-view or non-pay-per-view. The main event, I think, is a decent fight. But the card as a whole is shit, whether it's pay-per-view or not. In my opinion, Dave, you might disagree.
The card's awful.
Well, I'm used to shit from Britain, so I mean, I guess I'm just judging it by those standards.
There's nothing good about it. You've got Katie Taylor against Kimberly Connor as a chief support. Shite. Derek Chisora, Carlos Takam. Okay, that's not bad, but on Chisora's last viewing, he was absolutely horrendous. Sam Eggington, Brandon Cook. Eggington's apparently on a week's notice. Cook, know nothing about. Awful opponent for what was Kell Brook. They're bigging up Conor Benn against Cedric Payno because Ben is utter shite and got dropped by this French guy back end of last year.
I mean, they're both crap, but I mean, it was entertaining, right?
And then probably his most talented fighter on the card, Joshua Buatsi, they never fucking replaced Ricky Summers. So he's against Trevor Benjamin Allen or whatever you want to call him for some WBC title. And again, Buatsi, the way they treat Buatsi is a joke. They keep bigging up this guy saying he'll take on anybody. And then Summers pulled out a while ago now. And then there's been no opponent changed. They were talking about some Russian who's boxed for a European title. That's clearly not happened now. So they're going to stick him in with some absolute no mark again. And then we'll see him probably, September, October now. Hopefully in a step up.
Well, I'm just judging it by Matchroom standards. I mean, expected AIDS. We're used to them spreading their cancer wherever they go. So I mean, the main event for me it's fine. I might tune in, maybe not. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But I think they're really getting away with a steal with this next Joshua opponent, though. I mean, Povetkin, Fat Reuter. I mean, no controversy as to whether he was cheating, really. And then he continually got caught, even against bums. Hasn't fought anyone elite except Vlad, who won every second against him. And that was even an old Vlad, close to basically the version of Vlad that Fury schooled. And this is the guy they're putting up for Joshua. I mean, it's a sanctioning body problem. He's the mandatory, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, ridiculous. I think it might be the WBC. Fuck whichever body put him up there as a mandatory. No, it's not the WBC. That's Wilder. I don't know what they'll do. One of the shitty organizations put him up there, and that's ridiculous, and it's embarrassing. The guy got staggered by David Price in his last fight, and even if he had just iced Price in the first round, it's still not nearly enough to warrant a title shot for a Fat Reuter who's past his best days and should have drawn with Marco Huck, in my opinion. This is ridiculous. People say, well, he has a chance because he can punch. But I think that's just that's just down to the fact that people don't rate Joshua that highly as far as his chin and stamina. I think that he has these vulnerabilities. I don't think it's because Povetkin's quality. I think this is a shit fight for Anthony Joshua and a pathetic excuse to avoid the Wilder fight.
Dave the Hater Lowback, everybody, raging. Ozzy's on the call as well, Andy Patterson and Rob Kelly. We're going into the home straight now. Colin Cooper was asking about the Beach Ballroom Aberdeen fight next week. We have discussed it. Craig Thompson's going, so I'm going to try and get him on to discuss this Lee McAllister. Danny Williams, NBC fight. Belly of the Week's coming up shortly. Don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube or iTunes, wherever you're listening to this at the moment. Final fight of interest of the weekend, Andy. Let's go to you for next week. This is, by the way, July the 28th. Mikey Garcia, 38-0, going in against Robert Easter, who is 21-0. IBF title, WBC title on the line. These are the type of fights you want to see, Andy. I think it's about Easter. I don't think he's going to fare very well in this one because his power hasn't carried up into world level. He was knocking a lot of people out. Then he won the split over Commey to take the title. He battered Cruz, dropped him a couple of times, but couldn't get him out of there. Then that fight with Shafikov, which the scores, I thought Easter won, but the scores were disgraceful. They were like 128, 108 across the board. I thought it was like a 115, 113 to Easter. Like I said, I thought he won, but the scores were ridiculous. Then he only got a split decision over Javier Fortuna, who has since been beaten. Who was beating him last time? I think it was Adrian Granados. Anyway, cut a long story short, Andy, Easter is a big lanky streaker, pisses in. I think Garcia is going to have his way with him.
I think so, mate. I really do. Also, as well as with Mikey coming down in weight to 135, which I think is probably more his natural weight. If you kind of look at him, he's massive. But if you've seen him, like, say, against Larry Cannon, if you remember, actually, he was like 2 weight classes bigger than him. So it'll be interesting to see what both are going to look like on fight night. Even though Easter is a kind of tall, lanky guy, as you say, I mean, he can't be too far off 6 foot at least. Easter, and I know Mikey's slightly taller than Loma, and Loma's about 5'5", 5'6", and that. But you think, you know, Mikey's jab, you know, his boxing fundamentals are far superior to Easter's, and to be honest, even though I've only watched Easter since probably the Commey fight, which again was another close fight, as we probably mentioned, maybe even the Mendes fight, which I think by that point Mendes was maybe slightly past his best, but I've not seen all that much on Easter apart from those fights. So I don't know if he's got any element of quitting him or whatever in that. I don't know, but I think if anything, I think Garcia could possibly get to him, maybe even stop him actually, considering this is more at his kind of natural and probably stronger weight as well.
We like to see unifications, Rob. As I said, IBF and WBC on the line. We're then expecting Vasyl Lomachenko, once he recovers from this shoulder injury, to fight Raimundo Beltran, who's the WBO champ. Lomachenko holds the WBA. So naturally, the winner of Loma Beltran will fight the winner of Garcia Easter, and then we'll have a unified champion at 135. Pretty simple stuff, Rob.
Yeah, could be a couple of spanners in the works for that. I don't think Garcia is going to hang around at 135 for too long unless that Lomachenko fight can get done or there's public kind of wave. I think he's happy enough to sit that out. But in terms of Easter Jr., like, I think there's a couple of problems with him. Like, he has supreme physical attributes for a guy at the weight, like with his height and his range, but he doesn't use it. Like, he smothers his work. Now, Shafikov was in a very, very, very close fight with him, and the Fortuna fight, he just doesn't. He just smothers his work. He makes it difficult for him. So I think Garcia will completely outbox him. He might even stop him. And I think it was evident in his last 2 fights that he's not living the life, just by the indications that he's surrounded by this massive entourage that are all ringside, including Broner and his other cronies. So I don't know. Like, I think he had good attributes and he showed some good stuff early doors, but I think Garcia will do a number on him. Like,
Ozzy, what do you think? You concur with Rob? And I think most of the panel are going for Garcia to do a number on him. I just think that Easter, once he gets under pressure from a big, strong, skilled puncher, and Garcia, what I like, what he does is that he finds angles very quickly. He sees opportunities really quickly in the ring. Like, you only have to drop your left hand or whatever, as Lipinets did for a split second, and all of a sudden Garcia has the boxing ability to move into range, adjust his feet and get the punch off straight away. It's an underrated skill, an under-noticed skill, I think, amongst the really elite fighters, and Garcia does it really well. So, Ozzy, if Easter makes any mistakes, Garcia will be right there to punish them.
Yeah, definitely. I can't see any other result, to be honest, than a Garcia victory. I think I agree with what I think it was you, Steve. Easter's not carried his power up. As I say, I always think at world level you need to have some sort of dig. He is a tall guy, And I mean, what is it? Is he 6 foot or something like that? 6 foot, something like that. He is quite tall for it, but I think Garcia is going to be too cute for him, too skilled. And I mean, it's not a bad fight. Definitely happy, more than happy to see this. I just can't see any way that Easter will do any sort of job on him. What I didn't realise is that Luis Ortiz is on the undercard.
Yeah, against Kajanu, your mate who fought Parker.
Yeah, I had no idea about that. I've completely missed that. That'll be interesting. I'm kind of glad Ortiz is keeping going. I didn't know if he'd pack it in, after the Wilder fight, like he's had his goal. But
yeah, I thought he might actually.
That'll be a shit face, that fight. I mean, see, boys, I've never seen that guy before apart from the Parker fight, and we all know that was a glorified sparring session because they've been.
Yeah, they were sparring partners, weren't they, Andy? Yeah.
I mean, Wilder, Ortiz, if he's wanting to get back in the saddle for another world title shot, he needs to step in here and end this pretty quick. And he could do it if he's in the mood for it. He could do it.
Is Ortiz not up there with the WBC still? In terms of the mandatory, or was it the WBA or someone like that? I'm not too sure.
WBC, yeah.
Ranked 4 for WBC. He's ranked. I think that's the only ranking he's got. Yeah, WBC ranking ranked number 4.
Because I know they said that the White fight was put on. That was put forward as like a second final eliminator or something. So, I mean, if he destroys this guy, hopefully he does. Because I enjoyed the Wilder fight. I thought he asked questions of Wilder. So. Yeah, I mean, he should destroy that. Kajanu, definitely. But no, back to the main event. I can't see anything else but a Garcia victory.
Final word to you, Hater Dave. I think we'll park all the rest of the questions and the DAZN chat until next week. We're going to be having a few quiet weeks in August, no doubt, because the boxing scene tends to sort of, mellow down a little bit. Anyway, Garcia, Easter, what do you think? What do you think, Dave?
Like the guys are saying, you can't really complain about this. It's a unification with guys who are both undefeated, well, technically undefeated. Easter's undefeated record is a little controversial. I did not score that Fortuna fight, but he looks god-awful in it. And I think he regressed since he fought Comey. And even that was a very close fight in which he could have lost. I think when I was watching it there, I had him losing it because I was at the arena, and then when I watched it back, I had him winning it very slightly. But I don't see what he can do to a guy as good as Mikey Garcia. So as much as we can't really complain about this fight being made, I don't think it's that good of a fight because I don't think it's that competitive. I don't think it's really competitive at all, really. So Mikey Garcia is gonna erase his ass, I think, and I think he's gonna make him look real dumb.
Okay, let's go on to the Belly of the Weeks and then get out of here. Unless I was imagining things, I think that I saw Smido come on the pod earlier for like about 10 seconds, and then all of a sudden he just disappeared off the call.
Congratulations, Smid.
Yep, well done,
Yep,
Smid.
he was here, I saw him.
He disappeared. If you want to come back on, Smid, you can, but we're going to turn the pod around quickly for our Patreon people very soon, so you better hurry your ass up. Right, Belly of the Weeks, I have an absolute shit ton. I was in Tesco's today with the youngsters, and my phone was just ding, 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 notifications for these Belly of the Weeks, man. I had to turn them off, so if I've missed anybody, I do apologise, but there's an absolute amazing quantity of them. As usual, facebook.com/Boxing Asylum, if you want to go and look at what the casuals, excuse me, have been saying. Right, Eddie Hearn's been nominated for putting out the Anthony Joshua Povetkin announcement tweet and naming the WBA twice. Might not be a typo. Maybe the WBA have two titles on the line. They could have. A nomination for Sparrow Harrison, MBE, writing in Boxing News. I enjoyed reading the guest column from Paul Smigger Smith, says Sparrow. It reminded me of what a brave boxer he was, taking on some of the most feared men around and in their backyard as well. He gave 2 gutsy and classy performances against Arthur Abraham in Germany, for which he deserves some respect. The sheer guts and strength of character he showed was very inspiring, says Mr. Sparrow Harrison. I was reminded again of the bravery of boxers while recently watching an Anthony Yard fight. Anthony gave a fearful beating to the brave but outgunned Darius Sek, who never gave up despite being dominated. He deserves a round of applause for this, says Sparrow Harrison, writing in Boxing News. The real Dan Maxwell has been nominated from Boxing Boy, talking about Boo Boo. Oh, this was the guy, I'm sure a lot of you came into contact with him. We're talking about underrated fighters, and he was saying that Kell Brook's underrated. And he were having a back and forward, Andy. I think you were involved in this during the week.
I remember seeing that guy. But I can't mind these. I think Brian was involved in it as well, so along the line as well. I vaguely remember this arsehole.
He said Boo Boo and Kell Brook are underrated.
That's
boxers,
who it was,
basically.
Andrade. I couldn't remember the other fighter. Andrade. Aye. That's it, fuck's sake.
Matchroom Boxing are announcing the Joshua Povetkin tickets. Cams says no chance it will sell out. 60,000 max. Michael Gearty is nominated Ultimate Boxer for coming up with 3x3 minute round fight tournament featuring the likes of AJ versus Mike Tyson. Matthew Skelton has nominated Bunsey. Apparently Bunsey said Povetkin, he's young, he's fresh and he's dangerous.
39-year-old.
He's not. He's none of those things, Bunsey.
Come
Thanks,
on.
He's definitely no fucking hungry anyway. I can guarantee you that one as well.
Box Royalty has nominated Eddie Hearn for putting Andrade in a photo with Anthony Joshua, my new stablemate, trying to grab some more followers. Michael Frayn has nominated this Danny Williams, Lee McAllister fight, which we'll hear about next week. Dan Mills has nominated Tony Bellew's new column on the BBC. Anthony Fowler, cementing his legacy, he said on Instagram, I've got a good opponent on July the 28th, 8-0 unbeaten with ambitions of his own, but I'm going to go through him like a hot knife through butter. Then really want to get on the October the 20th card in LA. The Americans will love my style, says Anthony Fowler. Joseph Ajayo, going to try and get him on. Love this guy, big Femi supporter from Nigeria. He was sending out some words of wisdom to Anthony Joshua, or Femi as he calls him. Femi, you are right about the Povetkin fight. The day a cow is born, it is bigger than a he-goat. You are bigger than any named cat. some words of wisdom from Joseph Ajayo there.
Fuck me, I thought you were going to talk about that guy who was offering to kind of edit the show for us.
Oh no, not him. This is Joseph. He was talking about Wilder as well. He said Wilder is not a threat to Femi. AJ is a skillful boxer with strength, stamina, and fine-tuned skills, and more than anything, he's humble. If AJ stays humble, he will never stumble.
Oh, fucking.
That's Ali worthy right there.
I love this guy, man. Joseph Ajayo. Well, I'm trying to get him on the pod. He accepted too, so I'll try. I don't know what your cost of ring Nigeria though, Andy.
Oh fuck, mate! Christ! Before you came out, you'd be getting a bill for like you know how you get these random emails. Like you'd be getting a phone bill for like 2,170.
Oh yeah, your uncle Ajayo Wellings has died, and you owe us £2,000 in a phone bill.
Go to the MoneyGram. Go to the money.
This isn't a scam.
In order to release the body, we need £3,174.
Yeah, I saw.
From a call you racked up last Sunday evening.
I saw Dr. Phil on that one time, and there was a lot of old women in the United States getting scammed out of it by these lads in Nigeria who were claiming to be like marine operatives and all, and they needed like 20 grand. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, the poor women. And then I was like, why didn't I get in on that? Like, I would have been brilliant at that. I would have been unreal at it. Like, but the jig is up now, so I'll have to find another hustle.
Another hustle for Rob. Mohamed Mia has nominated Floyd. Apparently, there was a video going around of Floyd playing basketball. He got blocked by a female basketball player, and then he started crying for a foul. Surprised he didn't friggin' hit her one. She's lucky, like she got away easy there.
50-0, baby.
Simon Green got nominated by Porky's Corner, who seems to have blocked everybody.
Why you fucking roaster? He goes fucking box every cunt.
I don't know. Simon Green, why do people give Eddie so much shit? The man makes so many class boxing shows. People are jealous, etc., etc. Christopher Neal as well was nominated along these lines by a few people. Master Knowledge has been nominated. That's Spencer Fearon by Sean Stevenson. Spencer tagged in Sky Cricket when he was bigging up the Toe for Toe podcast, whatever it's called. Marcus Bellinger has given DAZN a Bellew of the Week. The biggest Ponzi scheme since Bernie Madoff was on the scene, in my opinion. Apparently, according to DAZN, Demetrius Andrade is the #1 middleweight in the world, and Jesse Vargas is a top 3 welterweight. Tune in next week. I'm going to have my say on DAZN, actually, and all these so-called signings. Also, DAZN USA have said, is AJ and Katie Taylor the best pound-for-pound boxers in their respective weight categories, gender categories, whatever? Jordan Wills nominated that one. Not Dean Windass. I think it's his son, Joshua Windass, was nominated by Martin Hurry. In my uneducated opinion, Froch would have knocked out Calzaghe, I think he was talking about. What do I know? Says Joshua Windass. That's one of your lot, is he, Andy? Does he play for Rangers now?
Yeah, I play for Rangers, mate. I don't know. Was it said Froch would knock out Calzaghe?
I think it was Calzaghe, yeah.
Well, fucking, there's Smithers just come on the call where he'd probably agree with what Josh Windass just said there, so.
Froch to knock out Calzaghe, Smith?
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
See?
Few more casuals here. Go over to Facebook to see them. Thanks to everybody who's nominated them. Liam Smith is ready to become Liverpool's first 2-weight world champion. Mike and Boxing has nominated BT. Sports for that. Amateur hour in the Wellings household here. I've accidentally clicked off all of these nominations, so I shall ramble on while we fetch them back. More casual ones, so many casual ones, guys. Just flicking through them here. Charlie Shanks Art was nominated by Craig Mastro for drawing a picture of Eddie Hearn. Andy nominated Anthony Ogogo.
Yes.
Chudinev is the better boxer, but for some reason he just isn't doing it. What's this about, Andy?
Well, did you see Chudinev fighting last night?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Chudinev fight before? Chudinev is a good fucking boxer.
Ogogo's got a few actually, Andy, because the D-Dog nominated him as well. Apparently he kept him going on
Right.
like Breakhouse or something. Kept saying Breakhouse.
Aye, Breakhouse and
For
Dance
Brackhouse.
House and that, for Brackhouse and that. Aye, oh man, he was awful last night. I actually preferred Duke McKenzie, and he's absolute worse than fucking Anthony Ogogo last night. Like,
Anthony Gogo's been nominated from Richard Swig. Dave Allen's been nominated by David Nunn. Dal Singh has nominated John Ironhofer. Apparently, he is a boxing writer in America. After watching 12 rounds of an amateurish Usyk tap a lazy Gassiev, I think they've both been overrated by everyone, including myself, says John Ironhofer. Need to get in itself a new sport, John. Ben Thorne's nominated us for talking shit about Usyk after the Hunter fight. I know me and Tommy were two of the main culprits for that. Mea culpa. Ben. Dale Nichols, friend of the pod. Go and check out his videos on YouTube. He's a talking head. Nominated Jamie Moore straight after the main event last night. I'm putting it out there, says Jamie, who was no doubt in an inebriated state. Tony Bellew beats Usyk by KO. Martin Hurry also nominated that one. Tony Bellew been nominated by Ferguson. I was born ready, Usyk. Let's get this done. Trap Media have been nominated by you, Andy. I agree Usyk and Loma are one-trick ponies. We've seen the Loma code cracked by a C-level Salido that had lost 12 times prior. When Usyk steps up in competition, he'll get beat. I wasn't impressed, says Trap Media. They have previous form. We've had them
That's
before.
brilliant.
They should shut their Trap Media, shouldn't they, Smith?
No, they should keep going with stuff with content like that. That's superb.
Mohamed Mia.
keeps Bellew the week going, you see.
I was going to say, speaking of traps, how about Amir Khan and Bruce Jenner?
You know what, Dave? I'll come into that one next. Apparently, Mohamed Mia has nominated Amir Khan, and also the deluded Khan account has been on top of him as well. This fine young lady, what do you call her? Jenner, Bruce Jenner, what's she called now? Caitlin, fine young lady, has been Amir called her Bruce apparently, and this is like crime of the century, and everyone's losing their shit.
Go on, Amir.
Everyone except for Caitlin herself, probably. You know the way it is. Everyone being offended on her behalf, no doubt. Simon Howarth has also been nominated by quite a few people. He's a casual, but I'm going to read it out. He said, "It's all right fighting in front of one man." Oh no, it's all right fighting in front of one man and his dog against a Russian journeyman on ITV. But when millions are watching on Sky Box Office, there is Sweet Caroline and Anna is there in her leather pants. How will the Ukrainian rookie's arse hold up now, says Samuel Howarth. I think he may be trolling. Sorry, Robert, what were you going to say there?
I was just going to say, I wonder did Amir get the name wrong because Caitlin hadn't changed her Skype ID.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the lookout next time I see Anna with the fucking leather pants on. I'm going to see if a lot of cats come in looking for the fucking fish that they smell.
Thanks for that, Andy. Any other nominations, gentlemen?
Yeah, I got a great one. I want to keep you plugged into what's going on in the hip hop scene and boxing. Floyd Money Mayweather, big bro, is beefing with his old time friend 50 Cent again. So this came from, Bad Medina. Anybody who keeps up to date with Floyd's women, well, she was the one that came after Miss Jackson, the kind of blondie one. He had her around there with another few substitutes on the bench as well in a couple of 24/7s. But anyway, apparently she commented on something on 50 Cent's page, and 50 Cent said to her, "I'm not the champ. I'm not going to spend $1,000 on a purse for you. I'd kick you out the front door." And she came back saying something like that Floyd was wanting to have a baby with her and she got out when she could. But basically 50 was calling her out on being a gold digger. So Floyd took exception to being mentioned in these contexts, and they're one putting his business out. So he said, "Curtis, confidential informant Jackson, you're mad because your oldest son, Mark's mother, doesn't even want to be with you. Your son doesn't want to have anything to do with you. You haven't had a hit on the radio and who knows when." So he goes on for about 15 paragraphs and ends it with
Could he spell?
Yeah, but wait, this is what we're getting to. So he's like, "You're quick to gossip like a bitch, but you got herpes from DJing. Where's your memes for that?" Or better yet, post about how your Coca-Cola deal wasn't really 300 million. Don't ask me for no money no more. So 50 in response put up a picture on Instagram of a note with just some words spelled wrong, and he was like Floyd's first draft before he sent it to the ghostwriter. So yeah, Floyd is all upset again and in his feelings for a guy with so much money. He seems to have an emotional meltdown on social media once at least every 4 months, and it's normally got to do with some girl. So yeah, so good man, Floyd. Floyd could get a value of the week for that.
Rob, don't be questioning Floyd's ability to read. We know he can read the auto cue, judging by last week's triple glass windows advert.
That was fucking unreal. That was like one of those days you wake up and you're like, am I in a parallel universe or something? What's going on? Like,
I was hoping Floyd would be going like, do you remember him? Oh, you buy one, you get one free.
The numbers across the screen.
George Dawes.
The numbers across the screen made me think it was like Babe Station or something. Like he was going to have, you know, the girls' club in the background or something, putting them up on the double glazing windows. But yeah, you know.
He's also one to talk about a baby mama not wanting anything to do with you. I mean, look.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
God.
That's why I call him a canastella.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Right, come on, any more nominations, guys? I'm busting for a piss here.
Oh, Eddie Hearn, yeah, he said in one of his Eiffel interviews that people who don't get behind the zone are just negative. And if he's doing something like that, we should all get behind it and not be knocking one out in the pants. He used that one again. So, you know.
Tune in next week. I'm going to expose the zone. Well, not really, but anyway. Okay, so any more nominations? Going once, going twice? I'm going for Trap Media. What about you,
Media,
Ozzy?
that's for me.
Oh, Trap Media for Smid.
Yeah.
Ozzy, what about you?
Trap Media.
Oh, could be a landslide here. Robert, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely Trap Media for the one-trick pony, Lomachenko. Yeah, definitely.
Claptrap Media for you, Andy?
Yep, Claptrap Media, mate. I mean, you know, fucking Lomachenko was exposed by Salido, man. He's an absolute amateur. She go back to where he once came, you know.
Closing out, a clean sweep for you, David?
Yeah, sure. Let's get him on the pod.
I mean, Khan should have got a lot closer. He needs an honourable mention. He needs like a emeritus belt this week, Khan, because he's made a right hash of that Bruce Jenner shit.
How close did he get, Smitho? This is the question.
Hopefully, well, yeah, hopefully very close.
See, the thing is about that. I mean, who the fuck has the right to be offended by that? Everybody, right? But who gives a fuck? You know, a guy made a mistake, man. We all make mistakes. We all offend people. But guess what? It's just a fucking moan.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure she don't care.
Like, this is like kind of far down on the list of mistakes that American has made.
I mean, I'm sure, like, you know, I think Khan pulling his wang out on Skype.
That trumps everything. That's the trump.
As long as he's not pulling Caitlin's wang out on Skype, Andy.
That'll be next. The funniest thing about it is how he like responded to it. Like he's like, I remember Bruce back in the day when they won the gold medal. I remember him as Bruce, my Olympic hero, and he won them gold medals like 10 years before Khan was even born.
I have no idea who this guy is. I'll be entirely honest with you. Isn't he Olympian or something?
Yeah, he's like a track and field athlete from like the 70s or something, I guess.
And you know, in his apology video, he called himself an Olympic champion, Khan.
He lost to Kinderland, yeah.
Almost, Khan, not quite.
Not quite. Right, it's all about how he handles himself. We all know how he handled himself, Smido, in the past. What about Usyk Gassiev before we close it out, Smid?
Yeah, just a masterclass, wasn't it? I mean, I wasn't fully sold on Usyk before this tournament, but obviously as the tournament's gone on, he's impressed in every fight. His semi-final with Berdis was a great scrap and a very close one, and I think that last night's performance only goes to show how good Berdis was in defeat, really, because I think Andy had him even winning that fight. I think Andy went to that one live, so you know that was a bit of a form booster there. It was just a masterclass. Showed he got a chin as well. I mean, he landed that. I think it was in the fourth round where Gassiev landed that right hand, and that was like flush on the button, to be honest. And he survived that well. And then in the 11th, where Gassiev was really going for it, whenever he did have a little bit of success, Usyk came back firing, and that impressed me again. Obviously, he's got the gas tank, the speed, the skill, the footwork, the confidence, the chin. He's got a lot, and my eyes aren't used to seeing that from a 14.5 stone man. We're not used to seeing that style. Massive achievement. I mean, I knew that he'd won the 4 belts, obviously, but I didn't realise until today that that's only happened on 4 occasions by 4 individuals since we've had the 4 belt system. Hopkins, Taylor, Crawford, and Usyk, and it's remarkable, really, that 2 of those have been this year. So that shows. Was Crawford this year? Yeah, or last year?
Last year, wasn't it?
Well, within a year of each other, let's say. I mean, that takes some doing as well. I was happy to pay up my tenner and watch that last night. I thought it was excellent. Plenty of options for him, plenty of options for Gassiev. We saw Burdis on the undercard. That would be a good fight, Gassiev Burdis. That'll be sound. I don't really know what Usyk does. I'm not really interested in Bellew. Bellew can suck my dick. I'm sick of his pantomime. Doing basically retirement jobs that Bellew keeps getting given. I've seen bits of the Liam Smith fight. That looked pretty decent, to be fair. Is he only a young lad, the guy who beat Smith?
Yeah, he's 21, I think, Smith.
Yeah. I thought that was a good scrap from what I saw. But fuck Joe Gallagher anyway. And then my other final point, Steve, was Box Nation. What is happening? Like, they didn't even show Liam Smith last night. Box Nation didn't even show that. I mean,
exclusive to BT.
Oh, it just goes against everything what they set up to do. It's an international fight, as in it's in America, by one of Frank's actual fighters. Not like one of Frank's part-time promotion partners like Frampton or Fury. I've touched on them before. That Frank is, I think, is just being used as a vehicle for those guys with big names and former world champions, Frampton, Fury, to get on TV or to get on BT. Liam Smith, has been with him a long time and stayed loyal to him. It's not even on BT. I just don't get it. And there's been no announcement, like I said a few weeks ago, if they would have come out and been clear with people, including me, and said, our strategy now is to go everything towards BT's.
Well, Smitho, George Warren did write an article in the Boxing News. Obviously, if you're not a subscriber, you wouldn't have seen it. I just happened to read it, and he was saying that Box Nation, despite all these fighters going over to BT, it's not sustainable on its own. It's not going anywhere. It's sticking around. And he cited the international content, which obviously is diminishing. He cited the fact they've done this deal with Broadway Boxing, which was on Friday night, Smith. I'm sure you would have watched that. I didn't. No. And the MTK domestic deal as reasons why it's thriving. But I wouldn't have thought so. The fact they got rid of a fight to remember and, Buncey's Arrow and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, to not have Fury or Frampton, or even Yard, who, has fought on some like Friday night cards in bloody Brentwood, on Box Nation. To not even have them guys on, it's a farce. And I just think the smoke and mirrors around it. I just think it's a disgrace to any subscribers, including me, and that I think that they're losing subscribers left, right, and centre. To be honest.
And Smith, I love how you call Maris Burdis. It's like Mark
because
Burdis,
that's what Ronald McDonald says. So, and I'm just, hey, that was a tough interview from Ronald McDonald last night, wasn't it?
I thought he did a good job, to be honest. That's a difficult situation what he was in.
He asked a question that was about a minute long, and he got a 2-word answer from you. 2 words and a smile, and then I thought that was funny. Yeah. So anyway, I'll let you get on, Steve. You need a piss.
No problem. We're going to wrap up now. Jason Chukwu's talking about the Showbox card. We ain't talking about that now, Jason. I'm afraid we're getting the hell out of here. You got 2.5 hours out of us. Ozzy Smith was here for the duration. Andy Patterson as well. Thank you to Dave the Hater Lowback, rapping Rob Kelly, Adam Smith as well. Also, thanks to our guest James Hare, former pro, came on early for about 20 minutes. That was interesting.
Yeah, listen to that. Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff from James. Good fighter back in the day. I've been Steve Wellings. We'll catch you all again next week. See you then. Bye.
Peace.